Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K Now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next few hours, along with Mike.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Doing just fine, thank you. And Bruce is here with us.
I'm backstage in the dark, sitting on a monitor speaker, in between worship sets.
All right, I'm not going to go there. I didn't hear anything from Spence, but he'll probably be here. Our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And today's show is being brought to you by that VidBlaster guy, Tom Sinclair. Just go to thatvidblasterguy.com. And I want to mention that the show is also made possible by Bamboozer at bamboozer.com. I got an email yesterday from a friend of mine, and it had bread tabs. And I said, what is Don sending me? It's really neat. I never thought about that. And maybe you've already heard about it. You know those little tabs that you seal the bread bag with? That you can take them off?
With twisty ties.
Not the twisty tie. No, not the twist. No. The flat.
Okay, plastic ones.
The plastic one that kind of like you jam the bag, you twist the bag and jam it into it to hold it.
Right.
Well, apparently you can use these to mark cables, and they fit cables perfectly. So right at the, let's say at the power strip, you take those that are white or light color, they show yellow and white, and with the Sharpie, you write on it, monitor, computer, lamp, whatever, and you put it over the cable, and it holds it like it was made for it. This is so neat.
And how can you work duct tape
should
into
listen
that?
to computer.
The what? What'd you say, Bruce?
Oh, I was saying this is why people should listen to Computers 2K Now for tips just like this. Yes. Where else would you hear this information?
And I was saying, Amnon, how can you work duct tape into the equation?
Oh, you can't.
Okay.
Duct tape will cover it, and it's gray. It's not good.
Now, some of these have date stamps and things like that on them. Did they tell you how to clean all that garbage off?
No, but if you use a black Sharpie, you don't see them. They disappear into the background. Besides, they have them on one side, not the other, I guess.
But I would suspect that if you used something like fingernail polish remover, it probably would wipe right off.
Possibly, I don't know.
You have to test it because some of that stuff will actually eat the plastic depending on what kind of plastic it is. Something that I have found that does not eat plastic very much is lighter fluid.
As a matter of fact, I think the image that came with it showed that the tab still had the writing, the printing on it. But you really couldn't notice it because the black Sharpie stands out, so it's bigger writing and much darker that you don't pay attention to the other. I just looked and I said, wow. Well, what do you know? Nick is here. Morning, Nick. You made it. I told you to rest. But it's really nice. I mean, you just take those tabs and mark. I mean, I even here, I have those. I'm using tabs on the end of every cable. It's those labeler, the brother or whatever it is, labelers, the strip, and you fold them in half and sticking. But many times you can't really. You have to bend it, and if there's a lot of plugs, it's hard to see. With this, you just touch it with your finger and twist it. And the thing is that when it's on a cable, it looks like it was made for it. So braid tabs, don't throw them away.
And you can help the environment by recycling them. I mean, just think about all of the bread tabs that are going to take over the world because of the filling of landfills.
Mike, you're bad.
Steve said my audio is not good.
You sound okay here.
He sounds different on my end than normal.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you're listening on a little bitty speaker too.
You sound normal. He sounds hollow and on the high side.
Well, maybe, you know what? I'll bet I know why.
Why?
Yep. Bet it's better
as we
now.
all know, audio is not important.
Audio is not important. Why don't you guys get a life?
Oh, there you go. There you go. That's the mic we know.
There you go. I don't know why this thing keeps switching. There's this AT2020 that continues to that Skype will switch to it every time. I ought to know it by now.
That's weird. I can hardly tell a difference here.
That's scary.
It's funny, speaking about mics, right outside our green room door before you come backstage to go out on stage, there's a little thing on the wall that's got holes drilled into it, and so all the wireless mics fit in there. You know, they're all color-coded. But somebody stuck a banana in one of those holes. So I'm looking at it, and there's a really nice wireless microphone in the hole, and then there's a banana in one of the holes. What if somebody grabbed that banana and tried to sing into it? I wonder what would happen.
One banana, two banana. Oh well.
That reminds me of a joke, but I don't know if I should share it.
Of course you can.
Okay, what's yellow, hangs from trees, and smells like bananas?
What?
Monkey vomit.
Oh, jeez. Oh.
See,
TMI.
Oh. Okay. Whatever you say, Bruce.
Okay.
All right. By the way, if you guys have an account with Living Social and you didn't change your password yet, do it. About a week ago, they got hacked, and something like 50 million passwords were compromised.
LivingSocial.com.
LivingSocial.com.
I've got an account.
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
Nick,
I got
Nick, let me hang up on you, Nick. Because I messed up Mike. Let's see. How do I get that back? Okay, what do I click on to get Mike back? Resume call. There you go. No, that didn't do it. I hate Skype. There's no.
Did you not click add to conference?
No. Oh, how come I still have you?
Here, I'll hang up.
I thought I hung up on you. And it says resuming call.
Yeah.
There is Mike. Okay, now why do I have... Oh, that's why. All right, Nick, call back. Yeah, when it comes when they don't come all at the same time, I forget to do the ad. and that's one kind of weird thing. Well, what do you know? Andrew is here too. The new Skype, the one that I have for NCN guests, which is a new. Hey, let me fix that. All right, there's Mike. The newer Skype that I installed there, if there's already somebody online and another one dials, I have no choice but to click on just add to group. It's not like you have a choice whether or. So it's great. This one is updated here, but it's not doing the same thing.
Interesting.
Don't know why.
So you don't have the option that if I call in and you're already talking to Mike, you can't click add to conference call?
On the new the NCN guest, if somebody calls in and then you call, like Steve is online and then you call on it, I think it's also on Computers to Create Voice.
I think
sounds like an Amnon problem to me.
No, it sounds like during audio calls it'll let you add to conference, and on video calls it puts calls on hold.
That's very possible.
Doesn't make sense. Why would that make sense?
I don't know, but it works on it. It does it on all the audio machines, just not on the video machine.
Yeah, that's true.
Good morning, everyone.
Hello,
Andrew. Good morning. All right, you guys talk.
Now, I got a question. How do I sound to you guys?
Terrible.
Terrible. Okay, so
Yeah.
I bought these headphones at the airport because these were the cheapest headphones, and they were $60, and it has a mic. I just discovered it, so I was just curious how it's going to sound.
$60?
$60, the cheapest headphones at the
Yeah, I
airport.
believe I'd be taking those back.
And actually, the audio for the headphones are phenomenal. This is probably the best earbud I've ever owned.
Are you sure? I think earpods are better.
Earpods?
Yeah, the ones that Apple sells. I mean, they have to be better.
Yeah, I mean,
I was
no
at
question about that.
the airport about a year ago. I went in, it was killing some time. I don't remember where, Atlanta or somewhere. I walked in and looked at one of these electronic little kiosks sort of things. And I walked over, and as I was looking through, I saw something. I don't remember what it was, but it was this neat little electronic device. I said, that's pretty neat. And looked at it. It was $24.95. I said, well, I mean, I know it's expensive here. I don't mind paying extra for it, but I don't want to pay too much for it. I took out my phone and did the Red Scanner app, scanned the barcode on it, and Amazon had them for $3.
Wow.
So I'm guessing you just bought them through Amazon then.
Actually, I forgot about it. It was an impulse thing, and I just said to heck with it.
Well, my headphones are the Bob Marley edition, and they have,
Oh, well, mine weren't Bob Marley, so there you go.
Hey, Mike, I just tweeted you a picture of the mic stand with the banana in it.
Where did you send it?
At MC Phillips.
Oh, on Twitter.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So
I like that
have
mic stand. Who made that?
I don't know who made that, but I really think that Andrew needs to do a review of that banana mic since he's talking about headsets and mics and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Banana
but
mic.
Andrew gets a little off base when he sees things shaped funny. You have to watch Andrew. He means well.
Oh, look.
He always does.
Not
Oh,
appealing.
that actually is a good mic stand. Look at that.
I like that. I'm going to have to make one of those, but what I will do, though, is I'm going to get some of these plastic grommets to go in the hole so that the microphone is actually sitting on plastic instead of in that against the wood.
So, Mike,
Just
I got a little question for you, and maybe everybody else in this group could kind of help me out with this.
You got questions? We've got answers.
Yeah. I actually have a question.
We
for you
try.
guys. So, well, you guys always answer my questions. So
Well, we'll
I'm sure I'm
lie
gonna
if
get
we
a
don't
good
know the
answer.
truth.
Even if I don't like the answer, I'll get an answer.
You'll get one.
So my birthday is next week, and I made I guess I told Jess I kind of wanted a new microphone, and she heard me talking to.
Well, I want a new microphone. I want it. Wham, wham, stamp, stamp. Yeah, I want it. Yeah, she probably got the idea.
Well, I was talking to Mike about microphones, and I think I was talking to Spencer about microphones, and she heard me talk about the Neumann TLM 103, and I didn't think she would get it. And apparently she has ordered the microphone for me, and it should be here on Monday. So my question now is, it's a phenomenal microphone, but will it work in my environment?
Well, if you do the Joe DeMax way of eating the microphone, I mean, if you do like this all the time, there won't be any room noise.
But do you think I'm going to pick up some room noise?
Well, you're always going to pick up room noise, but again, it's a good microphone, and it generally speaking, condenser microphones in studios that are not well conditioned for sound are not a good idea. Depending on the room, you may be okay with it. You're just going to have to test it and see. It's a good enough microphone that if you find out you're picking up reflections, it may be worthwhile to add some sound treatment to the studio. It certainly would not hurt.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, would it two things. One, would sound treatments help to some extent? I mean, it's not really reverby, this room, to begin with. So I don't have that much of a cavernous sound in here. And two, how much louder, as far as a condenser mic goes, will this microphone be compared to the one I'm using now?
I don't know that it'll be any louder, because if you work the new one as close as you're working the present one, it's going to sound terrible.
Okay.
You're going to have to learn to move back from the microphone. If you get it, you see how close I am to this one. It's kind of dark, but if you see how close I am to this one normally, if you get any closer than this to the condenser microphone, you're going to have an issue. In fact, I'll flip over to the other condenser microphone if I can get all this crap out of the way.
I mean, what I have now is a condenser, and I eat this mic. I mean, I'll put it in front of me now. I'm pretty close to the microphone when I'm using it. I mean, I'm getting like right here, like literally maybe 2 inches away from it.
So, Mike, is the new mic that he's getting, will it pick up more noise in the studio, do you think?
More than what?
More than what he's using now.
There's no way of knowing.
Okay. All right.
It's trial and error. It may not. I mean, it all depends. I've switched over to a condenser microphone. Has anything? I think I have. You're not hearing that, are you?
No.
You hear this?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm on a condenser microphone now, and the world hasn't come to an end. As to whether the sound is any better, if you're listening on a computer speaker, you can't tell any difference. If you're listening through headphones, Nick, what do you think about the difference between the two mics?
They're pretty comparable.
I didn't even hear you make the switch, so.
I saw you make it. Yeah, no, they're pretty comparable. I don't think anybody's going to be able to tell the difference between them.
I'm intrigued by the word reverby. So, Mike, how reverby is your space?
Well, it's not very reverby in here, surprisingly. I guess it's because there's so much furniture in this room where there's no reverbiness, here's another word, in here.
Don't you have some curtains on the walls and some of the
right
area,
across from me, I have curtains. There's always someone standing next to me. I got a window to this side here, and the rest of the room is open. So there's I guess I'll show you guys. So there's a open area here. So there's no door. I don't know if that actually helps with my setup.
It depends. It depends on the spacing and the alignment. You could take a situation like that. Let me back up. Have you ever been to the nation's capital?
No.
Okay. If you ever get to D.C. and do the tourist thing, if they're still doing it, they in the past have given tours of the Capitol, And they show that the unusual acoustics of the Capitol building are such that in the old days, the representatives used to meet in the rotunda of the Capitol. They had desks, apparently like school desks sort of things, sitting there. Guys, it's been 40 years since I've heard this story, so don't accuse me of not knowing anything about history, because that's been that long since I've heard it. But as they were sitting there, as you would sit at your desk in a particular spot in the Capitol, and would reach over and whisper to the person sitting beside you, there were some desks all the way across the room where people could hear you as if you were sitting right beside them. And that was the certain alignment of the acoustics within the building. It's a physical phenomenon. So that you look at that open space and say, is this good or bad? You don't know. You'd have to actually run a plot of the room to see where the sound is going to determine whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. It may be that the post in there is perfectly positioned to allow the sound to bounce back into your microphone. It's not likely, but it's possible.
It's possible. So let's say I have significant, this microphone's picking up significant room noise.
Mm-hmm.
What are some sound treatments that I could do and put in here?
Okay, two or three things. First, I'm not a sound expert when it comes to acoustics. It's black magic to me. But based on what I've read and heard over the years, the first thing that you can do, believe it or not, is when you're sitting in front of your microphone, is to take a flashlight, a bright, very directional flashlight, and put it beside your face and rotate your head around to see where the flashlight hits on hard surfaces. And if you see, you might even do it in the dark if your walls are anyway reflective, or even if you were to take the mirrors off the ceiling in your bedroom and for temporarily put them on the walls in the studio, mm-hmm. so that when you shine the light on the mirror, you see where that light reflects. Audio is going to do exactly the same thing. If you happen to see an unusual alignment of bounce from here to the wall to the hard wall, that hard wall back to this hard wall, that's a perfect loop that will just dramatically increase the amount of reflections in the room. But that being said, one of the other things that happens, and I think that the old VidBlaster guy saw this, and that is you can hang blankets for sound treatment, or a lot of people will go out and Amnon, I think you saw this too with your studio whenever you were configuring it. You can hang sheets, you can hang felt, you can hang all sorts of things, and sometimes they have absolutely no effect whatsoever on the sound reflection. It doesn't have the effect that you think it does. Right. And the reason is that sound does not always follow the rules that you think it does. A sheet will dampen high frequencies, but those frequencies may be so high that the microphone is not even picking them up anyway. The medium and lower frequencies go right through them, bounce back, and it's as if it's not even there. That's why when you see people who go out and get these thick shipping blankets like Tom has and stack them in, you hang them on the wall, it sounds different, but you're still not able to get that boom sound, that direct in-your-face sound that you want to get, in which case you may have to stagger 3 blankets so that you have blanket, sound pocket, wall. And that tends to have some effect.
See, the other thing that I would say is I have a lot of reflective surfaces because my tables are made out of glass, Mike. So would that be something to consider changing because it's a reflective surface?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in fact, I just read that yesterday or day before where someone was saying that people very often underestimate the problems that hard desk surfaces create for audio.
Right.
But the good news is it's very easy to test. Go get a blanket and don't just lay it out one layer thick. Fold it over so that it covers as much of the area in front of you as you can. Maybe ruffle it up a little bit. If you got a piece of carpet, go get a piece of carpet and carpet the desktop instead of having the glass desktop. Something that looks great.
I was talking to someone that kind of understands this stuff better than I do. other than Mike, because Mike is my audio engineer at this point.
Not for
he knows
acoustics.
Everything. Not for acoustics. This person knows acoustics a little bit, and he said, you know what could even help? If you get some of those like draw liners, and you put it like you kind of like attach, like you glue those liners to the desk, it might soften the sound. It's not going to be as reflective.
The what?
You know, like the shelf liners, or like draw liners?
I don't buy that.
You don't think so?
No, I'm not saying it can't work. I'm just saying it up front. It does not seem right to me.
Well, I mean, we have shelf liners that are kind of rubbery and they have like nipples on them.
Yeah, no, he's talking about like
and that would definitely do better than a flat glass surface.
I think this guy was talking about like the actual liner that you like. It's like
paper?
sticky on the back. Yeah, like the paper liner.
Never happened.
No, I don't think so. But
I
Mike,
think it's more like vinyl.
Mike, like at the studio, at the radio studio, there were two big windows between the room and outside, and they were glass. But it was interesting how they were designed. And you know what, guys? We're gonna. I forgot to tell you, we have
Microsoft.
a guest.
Go for it.
Nish, is that you?
Hi, this
Hi.
is Nish Hartman.
Good morning. Nish is Principal Healthcare Solutions Strategist at Microsoft.
Good morning, Amnon. How are you?
I'm fine, and you have Mike and Nick and Andrew here, and there's a whole slew of people in the chat room. Let me just tell people a little bit about you. You're the Principal Healthcare Solutions Strategist at Microsoft, focusing on application platform for enterprise accounts. You've also been working at Microsoft for over a year now. Prior to Microsoft, Nish was Healthcare Account Manager and Strategic Channel Manager at Oracle.
That's correct.
And when she oversaw the partnership between Oracle and ACFA. She's 20-year veteran of managing professional service channel programs and is located in the Charlotte area. Boy, we're proud of you. Nish,
well, thank you. Thanks for having me here this morning. How are you?
We're just fine. So you're going to talk about big data.
Yes.
And I guess when we're thinking big data is how big data gets lost, too.
That's right.
So what is big data?
Well, that is the question, isn't it? Because I think for many people and businesses, big data is this buzzword that they may have heard of, but they don't really understand. So here's a brief definition of big data. It's really a term that's used to describe the process of applying serious computing power, the latest in machine learning and artificial intelligence, to seriously massive and often highly complex sets of information. There's really no limit to the kind of data that can be evaluated, which is great for businesses. People really drive big data. In fact, the world now has twice as much data as there are liters in the ocean. And just some examples of that, of big data, is big data can be used for comparing utility cost with meteorological data to spot trends and inefficiencies. It can be used for comparing ambulance GPS information with hospital records on patient outcomes to determine the correlation between response time and survival. It can also be used with tiny devices that people wear to track their movements and calories and sleep, to track personal health and fitness. If you don't mind, I'd like to just share a few facts that businesses should be aware of with big data, because it's not only coming, it's here right now, and that is that 90% of the world's data has been created in the last 2 years alone. So it's big data or data collection is increasing 10 times every 5 years as organizations log data streams from things like internet interactions, mobile GPS activities, networks of sensors, the explosion of the data from these sensors and connected devices and powerful cloud computing centers have really created the big data industry. And it's also creating jobs. So Gartner says that by 2015, 4.4 million IT jobs globally will be created to support big data. And in 2013, already, big data is forecasted to drive $34 billion of IT spending. So we're seeing right now, at least as a Harvard reports, that 85% of the organizations that have reported that they have big data initiatives planned or in progress, and that these initiatives are sponsored by C-level executives or the heads of the lines of business, but only 17% of those respondents ranked that their ability to use data and analytics to transform their business as more than adequate or world class.
Where is all the spending going? It sounds to me like it's going to buy hard drives.
Well, and that is a very good point, because there is a need for storage in big data, and the challenge of big data is managing the size as well as storing it and searching it and analyzing it. So a lot of the spending is going for hardware, but the cost of that hardware is coming down, right? So the money is also being invested in tools like Microsoft tools, like business intelligence tools, SQL Server, PowerView, and Power Pivot, and it's being invested in people as well.
But that now this brings up another interesting question, and I just ask: with more data means you need more bandwidth. With more bandwidth means that caps on internet service connections is going to be a problem. It seems like we have a brewing major issue here in terms of how to move all that data around.
Well, yeah, how to move all around, and I think even more importantly, how to use the big data, because what happens in so many organizations is that a business will go to IT and say, we need a big data strategy to look for, create, and design the largest bucket, or the ability to house lots of data. And then IT will go back to the business and say, well, what kind of data elements do you want? And so what can happen is that it can become this electronic trash can, which can just house any kind of data that you want. But that's really kind of like building a house where the only constraint is the price, right? And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Real big data is when organizations need to take a business line, a focused approach. And that means picking business problems that need to be solved and coming up with design ways to solve it. So, the advice that we give at Microsoft is don't try to boil the ocean, but to take small iterative chunks and bites to be successful.
Okay. Manish, I know that, I can't remember his name, the guy from your publicist said that you will have only 10 minutes for us. Is that still the case?
Yes, I'm sorry, it sure is.
Okay, all right. That's fine. So let me ask you the question that here is: how feasible is? The better one is: how has big data impacted the healthcare industry?
Well, that's where I had my passion, and,
right.
and certainly would love to.
Yeah.
Right. I think that big data has become, in a lot of cases, more of a religion than a solution, and people have defined it differently. all the data has a narrative, and it's up to us to define what that narrative is. And so in healthcare, the narrative is around how do we make people healthier? You know, the goal that we have in the triple aim at Microsoft and with most hospitals is that what we want to do is use big data to reduce the cost of healthcare and to make people healthier. Reducing the barriers to the quality of care. So what big data can do is to help to identify patients at risk before they even walk into the emergency room. So healthcare today, as it works, or as it's intended to work, is really about paying for service. Now those incentives are changing, and as healthcare changes. So the concept now is looking at a 360-degree view of the patient, which partly exists outside of the hospital, right? And so how do I make decisions about how a patient is at risk? What kind of buying patterns do they have? What kind of exercise routines do they use? How can we leverage social media? So what we're doing from a healthcare perspective is for big data is looking at all of that impact. And another example of that is a product that we have called Health Vault, which is a personal health record that the patient has accountability for on their own. And from that, we can take the content that comes out of a Fitbit or a pedometer, and that can be uploaded into a patient's health record and then can interact with the physician so that the patient and the physician can communicate with each other without having to be in the hospital. They can also the patient can also make that information accessible to their family. We can tie in the spirometer. We can even tie in Connect, and Connect is an example of how a technology that was used for gaming is now being used to extend therapy in the home, virtual therapy in the home, for pulmonary therapy, for cardiotherapy, even for behavioral therapy, and then the results of that can be shared back in big data. So, what that does is to put in the physician's hands a way to customize a care plan using the input of all these different sensors and data sources and combining it all and make it more individualized for the patient.
All right, you're already over the 10 minutes. I really don't want you to. I don't want you to be mad at us, but I want to ask you if you're going to. There's a lot of questions that are coming up in the chat for you, and will it be possible to have you here again sometime soon that you'll be able to spend more time with us?
I'd be happy to do that. Would love to.
All right, we'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nish.
Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye. Very, very interesting.
She has not even begun to scratch the surface.
I know, but I guess this was kind of like a fast thing, and they said that she'll be able to be here today from 9:30 till 9:40. And
well,
I thought it wasn't. I couldn't believe that because I never had a guest that was like this. But that's why I asked her, and obviously. She's got somewhere else to go, so you can't blame her. But we'll get her again.
Oh, of course. But what I'm telling you is that the entire healthcare thing, in terms of in technology, I've got a probably a very unpopular, maybe even unhealthy attitude about a lot of it because, and I have to go political on some of it. But the reality is that whenever the government is put into the position of paying for the advancements in technology, it's not likely to happen. The free market funds the advances in technology. The government is not going to spend the money. They're going to do everything they can to hold on and try to provide the health care they promised to everyone. That being said, at least for now, there are many, many companies that are that each company is trying to carve out its niche in healthcare. For example, in the semiconductor industry, there is a major initiative going on with regard to sensors, and that is, how can a certain sensor be used to detect a certain disease or tumor or condition? And then what she's talking about is, with that sensor, when you collect that information, you collect big data. What are you going to do with that data? How are you going to manage it, manipulate it, and use it? The unanswered question, and the one that concerns me, and I don't mean this as a political comment because all politicians are bad, but what happens is when you got all the tools and you have, it's kind of like having a race car. You can build the best race car in the world. If you don't have any money to put gas in it, what do you have?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good point. That's right. I was gonna make a little comment to her, and when she was saying that the big data is going to help keep the cost down, I was going to say, guess what? It's not working.
It never has worked. It never will work. What it does is it opens new opportunities to spend money, and I don't think that's necessarily bad. I'm not suggesting that's bad, but this mantra about it's going to save money, that never materializes.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go. So, what were we talking about before? I'm sorry that.
Well, I wanted to answer Brent's question. Brent was talking about PST files with regard to Outlook. The procedure that I use for Outlook is that there is an archive function. You can go in and tell Outlook to archive any email messages, for example, before a certain date. If your PST file, not only does Outlook get sluggish, but on the old versions of 2002, I think, and before of Outlook, if your PST gets over about 2.1 gigabytes, it's gone. You cannot even start Outlook. It will, you will lose your PST file. You have to get some really snazzy tools to go in and chop the end off of the PST file and take whatever losses you get. There's no way to fix it. But the new 2003 and after, you can have much larger PST files, but it still makes Outlook really, really sluggish. So what we're getting to is that you can go into your present email store in Outlook and tell it to export anything older than, say, January 1st, 2011, so that anything that has a date of 2010 or before will be exported to that PST file. Once you've exported it, then what you can do, and what I do is you give it a meaningful name when you export it, like 2010 and before. You give it that name, then you go into Outlook and open that file as an additional file. So what that means is Outlook can read the contents of that file, but it's not sitting there being managed day in, day out by Outlook like it does its own PST file. You can open or close that file at will. Then you go back and you say, I want to archive everything older than January 1st, 2012. You name that PST 2011. If you look at my email, you would see that on the left side, I have files for obviously my inbox and the current messages, but then there's down at the bottom, it says 2012, 2011, 2010, 2009, all the way back to 2002. And if you're looking for an old email, sometimes it's a pain to have to look through all of them, but that happens, 3 times a year?
Yeah.
I haven't used Outlook for any emails since about 2008. I had a big problem. I lost all my emails, and I said from now on, I had a big data crash, and I lost all my emails, all my pictures, everything I had. So I said from now on, everything's going on the cloud.
No backups.
Had a friend.
Huh? No backups, huh?
Yeah, had a friend who contacted me, I think Wednesday or Thursday this past week. She lost everything in Gmail.
That's nearly impossible.
Just telling you.
It could happen, but it's nearly impossible, and they have a backup, so they'll be able to retrieve it for her if something happened.
Just saying.
The problem is... Go ahead, I'm not sorry.
If you pay for it, then they should. If you have the free account, it's up to them whether they're going to restore it from a backup or not. I mean, you get what you pay for.
But how does that happen? I mean, let's talk about that. How can Gmail lose all your emails?
I mean, remember, just like you lose it on your computer, it can get lost on their computer. Something can go haywire. I mean, she may have deleted it. Who knows?
You're
Point
going to log
is,
into a different account. I've had that happen to an old client of mine when I was doing IT work. He was freaking out that he lost all of his emails. Oh, my God, all my Gmail is gone. And I'm the one that told him to start using Gmail, so he was losing it on me. I mean, literally going crazy. I looked at the email address, and it was a different email. He had two different email addresses, and he logged into the one that had no emails in it.
see, this is the reason why I like PopMail versus IMAP. Of course, I mean, I don't travel around and need my email from different places, so it works for me. I want the mail to be on my machine so I can back it up as many times as I want, and I know that it's there. When it's somewhere else, it doesn't work. Now, if you have IMAP, you can also get it down to your Outlook at the same time. And maybe that's one way of doing a backup. People don't, I don't know why. People just don't like the word backup. Some people don't.
I think, you know what it is? I think backing up is fine. At this point, all my backups are off-site.
That's good.
I've decided to do an off-site backup because of all the issues that I've had. The biggest problem was in 2004, that's when I lost everything. And my problem was I had a backup, but the backup was still in that computer. And the computer went haywire and blew the hard drives on that computer. So the data was gone. I mean, it was totally erased.
Right.
There's nothing beyond that I could have done. And I was one of these people that was very much against off-site cloud backup. I didn't trust the cloud backup. I didn't want people to have my data. And, 2004, we're talking about a different time from, 2013. Cloud backing up has kind of become the norm now compared to what it was then. It was one of the biggest mistakes I ever made. I lost, years of photos, years of emails, years of letters back and forth from people. I mean, it's devastating when you lose something like that, and I just wish I had discovered cloud prior. And now everything is on the cloud, and I have redundant backups of everything. I have, for my photos, my phone is a backup, my hard drive is a backup, and Dropbox is a backup.
Yeah, it works. Let me get back to this, but I just want to acknowledge that Steve is here with us. Good morning, Steve.
Or maybe he's not.
Well, he is. He's probably gone to get some tea. And Bruce is back here.
Yeah, a little noisier place, but I'll stay muted unless I have
Yeah, it's all right. But, Andrew, to say that I use, like, Carbonite.
Sure.
But I also use local backup. And you're right. If you do the backup on that same computer, of course you get in trouble. You could get in trouble. And I'll say it again. I back up to 3 or 4 different computers on my local network at different times of day. And I don't do it manually. I'm a big fan of batch files.
Yeah.
And I'm using the Windows scheduler. And I tell it at certain times to go ahead and copy such and such to this machine. And in many cases, I just put a flash drive on the back of that machine, and I copy it over there. And at another time, another hour, 3, 4 hours later, I tell it to do and copy to yet another. And you end up with a bunch of different ones, plus the fact that I'm using locally second copy.
Yeah.
Which puts everything on another machine. On another drive, I'm sorry, not another machine. On an external USB drive that is a backup. It's a copy, so to speak, of my local drive. And every time you change something, bam, it goes and it throws it there too. So you can't have enough backups. We talked about that before.
No, you can't have enough backups. And I think people have to be smart with backing up. Let me take it back. When I was saying how I put everything on the cloud, yes, but I still have a local copy of certain things, my important stuff, just in case. And the one thing I will not advise anybody to do is back up your data on a CD or DVD. That is the worst decision you can make. For a temporary backup, that's perfectly fine. But for the long run, these CDs that we're buying in the stores do not have the life, the shelf life or life expectancy that we expect them to have. They say the average life is 5 to 10 years for a CD.
Not to speak that you have to do it manually.
Yeah.
And people don't do that. That's the problem that was when we were doing backups on floppies and then on tapes. It was just, you have to do it manually, and when you start, you're religious about it, and then you go to every week and every 2 weeks and every month and every 6 months, and before you know it, when you lose your data, you say, gosh, my backup is so old.
Well, let me ask you, Amnon, have you ever had that issue with the CDs and DVDs? Because I'm realizing now, we started, backing up on CDs became a thing in like 1997, 1998 for many people with the CDR.
Yeah.
A lot of these CDs that we bought for, oh my God, CompUSA or Computer City has this huge deal. It's a penny a CD. These CDs are not made it's not the same quality as what you would buy, at a store when you buy a song on a CD. So all these CDs that I have for my backup, I would say 80% of them are corrupted at this point.
I don't know that much about it. Param was really good at that, but from what I understood, if you take those CDs that you make a backup, the thing that ruins the CD is the deterioration of that aluminum coating on the top. I mean, unbeknown to people, the scratches that you put on the bottom part, not the label part, but the other part, yes, they can screw it up, but you can buff them out and get data back. But if you scratch that aluminum on the top part, then there's nothing to reflect there. That's gone. So if it deteriorates, it gets messed up. I was told that if you take the CDs and keep them in a dry place, away from light, they will last for a long time. But the problem is we don't know how long they're going to last yet.
We don't know. And CDs vary, depending on brand and
right.
Quality.
Absolutely. And that's the problem, that we don't know. And you can come up across some that are really bad and they use very bad materials, and they will be gone in no time.
Yeah.
Mike, you were going to say something?
Have you ever noticed how some of your pictures that have been photographically printed will fade over time?
Right.
That's what your DVDs do. They're just photographic.
Yep.
And what happens is they lose their contrast, so the laser cannot distinguish between zeros and ones, which makes your disc unreadable.
The tracks that the laser writes on those so-called grooves on the backside of the CD, on the bottom part of it, are worthless if that surface that is painted on the top, which is like a mirror, is deteriorating. Without that reflecting, it doesn't work.
Well, yes, but the part on top where the label is, the part you're talking about that's painted on it,
right?
That is the actual optical media,
right?
The plastic. When you buy, I don't know anybody does this anymore, but if you buy a stack of discs, CD or DVD discs, there will often be a filler in there that is clear. It's just a clear disc that's used to protect the disc on the top and the bottom from getting scratched.
Right.
That's just a disc without the reflective media being put on it. That's exactly what the disc is. And that's why the scratches on the bottom do not destroy the data. What they do is they diffract the laser light to keep it from reading the optical medium correctly.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, we can't hear you, Andrew.
Sorry, guys, I switched off the ATR.
Okay. There's a whole discussion about Carbonite, and I'm a big fan of Carbonite, but for full disclosure, let me just say they're an advertiser of mine.
Yeah.
You sell out.
But I'm a sellout, I know. Yep. But I've been using Carbonite way before they started advertising with me, and it's phenomenal. But if you have, 48 terabytes of video on your hard drive, it is not a good idea to back it up to Carbonite because it takes a very long process. The point is, it's not going to suck up your bandwidth while it's backing everything up.
Right.
So it takes a long time to back things up. So for someone, for the regular person, $49. It's $49. I think it's a great idea to back it up. If you want to do an external hard drive, it's a little bit more. I think they charge you a little bit for that, but it's a great way to back it up, and it's you don't have to think about it. But if you have a lot of videos, if you have a lot of photos, and it's a very large backup, it's going to take you, literally forever to back it up. The initial backup will take forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
even the restore is going to take forever too.
Absolutely, the restore will take a while too. So if you are doing a lot of video stuff, I would say find another solution other than Carbonite, because you're going to be very frustrated with the backup process and the restore process.
Steve Lee and I are talking in chat, and it's my opinion, he apparently agrees, that online backup is what I call a tertiary backup. Tertiary means third. I've got to have a first backup locally, second backup possibly, and a third would be on the cloud. And you say, well, that's overkill. Well, it's not overkill in many situations. It can sometimes save your rear end. I've had to do, before Mosey went crazy, I had Mosey account. I had things backed up to Mosey. I had to do a restore. It took about 3 days to get all my data back, and I'm not convinced that everything downloaded correctly. I actually went round and round with them because their client started killing some of my backed up files on their server because it sensed that, you've deleted these files from your local drive, so you want to remove those from the online backup. No, I lost the files on the drive, and I want to restore them, not delete them from the backup. So anyway, we got through all that. As far as I know, I got all my files back, and of course the one I wanted was not there, but that's the way it works. Steve says his oldest SSD died. That's troubling. I would be interested, Steve, in knowing which drive it was. And by the way,
they're not supposed to die. Unless there's some faultiness, but
everything dies. They should die as often as a memory module dies, and they die. It's the same technology. Now, I have a question. Is Carbonite still unlimited?
Unlimited backup, yes. It's still unlimited as long as it's on your hard drive.
I was talking, but I forgot to unmute the microphone. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, Steve.
So you did say something, and it was only about 30 seconds ago, and I forgot what I said. But never mind. Nice to be here, everybody.
So tell us about your SSD drive dying.
Well, it was the first one I bought, which is a 60 gig. And I bought it probably a couple of years ago, I think. It was the first one I bought anyway, and I thought, well, I'll give them a try, as we were a couple of years ago, were relatively too expensive for a hobbyist type thing, but I did plump for one. And it's done extremely well. I put it over across to the other machine, which I use as a personal video recorder, really, if you like. It's a PC, but it records television shows. And that's basically all it really does do now. I came home Thursday, and I noticed the machine was on. It's normally in sleep mode. And I thought, well, it shouldn't be on this time of day. There's nothing on it. It needs recording. But it was set to do the recording to 160 gigabyte normal hard disk drive, which also had a Windows XP partition on it. And I just left that as it being there. It just was using Drive E as it was for the TV recording. So when I turned the TV on and switched to to that channel so I could see what the PC was doing, it was a sign saying "Welcome to Windows XP." And I think, dear, that doesn't look very good. It's supposed to be Windows 7. So I switched it off and turned it back on. Went into the BIOS, no SSD. Oh, no, that's not a good sign. So I switched it off again, unplugged it, took off the data, put it into a different power supply connection and another SATA lead. So it was totally separate to make sure that it's eliminate what the problem could be. Definitely not there. And I've put it into 2 other systems now, or 3 in fact, and it's It doesn't exist. It is a dead parrot.
Dead parrot.
No life, no lights, no nothing. It killed it.
Yeah,
And I
so
spent the
much
whole
for trying to
evening-
put it in the freezer.
Well, you won't be able to on this because it doesn't spin. But yeah, there's nothing, absolutely nothing.
Was
on
it still under warranty?
I don't know. I wouldn't have the receipt anyway now.
Sometimes you don't have to have the receipt.
Well, if it's got a serial number, I suppose I could punch it in and try. But it's about 2 years, and it says on
Yeah.
a 60 gigabyte one. So it's
Well, I just bought a 60 about 3 or 4 months ago.
Well, I've now got 120, which I bought to get more storage space, and I've also now got a 240, which is the one that is running on this machine. Luckily, the 120 was sat there doing nothing, but it still took me the best part of the evening to get the machine running again from the backup, because I couldn't get the machine to work. I've finally figured out that there was a problem with one of the power cables that are coming out the power supply unit. One of those was intermittent, so there's obviously a break in a wire somewhere. So if it moved in exactly the wrong position, it just wouldn't boot up. And I think that's probably what's caused the drive to go wrong.
Bruce's comment actually reminds me of something that you might want to think about. And I discovered this when I bought my new Lenovo computer. And that is that a lot of these manufacturers are providing warranty periods based on when they ship the computer, or manufacturing date plus 6 months, some arbitrary number, because people don't keep up with their receipts and they have no way of knowing when the warranty period starts. What I learned about the Lenovo computer, which has a 3-year warranty, is that when I logged in, and I had not purchased a new one in a while, and I've never been to Lenovo's website to register the computer after I purchased it. But I did on this one out of curiosity and noticed that 6 months of my warranty had already gone by. I wrote them and told them that I had just gotten the computer. It didn't seem right to me that I've already missed 6 months of a 3-year warranty, and they said, that's fine, and they reset the warranty period for the purchase date of the computer. Having said that, when you buy a new drive, particularly a Western Digital, which is my favorite, although I do purchase Seagate, I am now, as a matter of habit, I have an account. I go to Western Digital and I register the serial number of that hard drive. And the reason I do that is because if it fails, when you go in to figure out, you don't have to have the receipt. It'll tell you when the warranty is out. Everything is right there. And if you have to get a return authorization label, all you do is tell it to print it. It makes life real simple. And it's a lot easier to get that serial number before you install it than it is after it's installed in your computer.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. That's something that happened with a couple of times recently with stuff that I hadn't bothered registering or sending off the warranty card, whatever. But contacting them directly did work. So they are keeping track on things as well.
It amazes me whenever a manufacturer requires a receipt for a product with a lifetime warranty.
Well,
it's just their way of not providing it to you.
yeah,
They're
there's
hoping.
always terms and conditions, isn't there, that they can fall back on so they don't have to provide it.
Yep.
But I do recommend registering those drives. Andrew, I forgot to tell you something a while ago about acoustics while we were on it.
Sure.
And that's what we were talking about, I think, when we got the Microsoft call.
Right. That's right.
You might want to research this on and see what you can find, but it appears that, depending on the layout of the room, the corners of the room are where the low-frequency sound waves actually coagulate. What would be the word? Where they actually group up, where they now I've forgotten the word.
So maybe that might be good because this room only has one corner in front of me. It's more like an octagon on the other side of the wall here. a very strangely shaped room, and I think that also attributes to the reason why I don't have so much.
That helps.
Reflective.
That helps, right, Mike?
Yeah, because like Amnon was talking about in this studio with the glass window, there's a very good chance that the glass was installed at an angle tilted towards the ceiling.
Yeah. It was the window was a 3-pane window, but instead of just being straight, it was straight, then an angle. From inside, it was in an angle, so it will not reflect the sound. And it worked.
And Andrew, what you want to look at is, and I can help you find them. I'm thinking about getting one. I've got a corner right here behind me that's somewhat of a problem. I've got so much crap in here that there are no parallel surfaces, and all the horizontal surfaces have been consumed. But that being said, you can get a piece of sound foam. I forget what they call them, ballast or something, but it's a round cylinder that is as long as you can fit, and you just hang it in the corner. It's just this round-looking tube that you hang in the corner, which breaks up the low-frequency standing waves in that corner.
Yeah. And
when you hang it there, if it's effective, you'll hear the effect immediately. If you're not having an issue with standing waves in that corner, it's a good decoration. I mean, it's not ugly. It's
the other major problem that most internet broadcasters face is CPU noise, fan noise. And I've gotten it down here, but I mean, this room is loud with the fan noise because I have multiple computers running at the same time.
Well, I do too, but that's fixable. All you have to do, A, is get the quietest fans you can, and there's an entire industry of quiet fans. The second issue is to actually locate the CPUs away from the microphone. The one that I'm talking to you right now is a good 5 feet away from me, sitting over on the other side, not for any reason other than I didn't have any place to put it below me.
Yeah.
However, I have two Lenovo computers, Tower computers, at my right leg. In fact, my right leg is leaning against one of them. And the Replay TV sitting over under the TV makes more noise than all three of them.
My problem is because I have, 4 big towers running here. And 2 of them are not necessarily at all, but the 2 that really make the noise are the ones that are working. And they have silent fans, but you hear a constant fan noise in this room.
What do you mean they have? What did you say? They have sound what?
Silent fans.
They're silent fans.
Yeah, but what I would do is I would actually take a piece of heavy material and hang it between the microphone and that CPU. Not at the back of the fan, but just to reflect, to absorb the sound and maybe to reflect it somewhere else. And that you can do with little pieces. I mean, if you came in, I was telling Tom the other day, say, why don't you do a studio tour? I found out that if I take a camera and start moving it, like holding it in my hand and move it around, somehow it crashes VidBlaster. So I don't do it. But if you looked here, I mean, I've got pieces of the material that I use, which is it's felt. I mean, you can't see it because it's blue. I tell you what, here, let me do this. All right. Here is, see, this is the material that I have on the wall. It's thick.
Yeah.
And if you look on this side, I don't know that you'll be able to see, I've got it in layers. Here's the blue. Here's green behind it. And here is black behind that still. Okay? It's just something that will keep on absorbing the sound. Because this is what John Hardy, the engineer that built the studio at the radio station, was talking about. That's where you put all these, what do you call them, Mike? Those panels that are, you don't have to pad the whole wall, but if you put just a few of those
You're talking about the Auralex sound deadening pad sort of things?
Yeah, it looks sort of like those cubicle material that the walls for cubicles.
Yeah, they're in studios.
Yeah.
They're called gobos,
But
but they're all sorts of sound baffles.
I took pieces of this material that I had left over, and they are hung on the ceiling with push pins, just the different locations. Because that's, again, the ceiling is from what I learned, any flat surface in the studio is going to be a reflective surface that's going to hurt you. So anything you can do to eliminate flat surfaces that are hard, I should say hard, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, hard, I mean, like glass, whatever they are, whatever it is, you want to cover them with something. That's why Mike was saying bookcases are great. I wonder what happened to Nick.
I don't think he's feeling so hot.
Yeah, I know, but I wanted to talk to him about
Yeah, he said he's got to go to pick up the mixer now. Thanks for having us on, or
okay.
having him on.
All right. So maybe we'll catch him later.
He was looked like he was falling asleep.
Well, he doesn't. He's sick.
He's been sick.
Yeah. So anything you can cover the ceiling, the walls, the corners with, and it's real cheap. I mean, like what Mike was saying for to do in the corner. Before I'd go and invest money in that foam, I would go and take 2 towels, pins, take them longwise, and push them against the corner, do away with the corner, and see how it does.
Do you have one of these foam rubber mattress pads?
I do.
Yeah.
All you got to do is roll that up in a
Right.
in a cone, temporarily hang it in the corner, and see if you can hear a difference when you get the new mic.
Yeah.
If it doesn't matter, don't waste your time.
Right.
Just my biggest concern with the mic is that is it a loud mic like traditional condenser microphones? Like I have 3 cheap, Samson CO1s in the studio for the guest mics, and those mics are awful because they are really loud. They pick up everything.
Well, but you're confusing some terms here. There's no such thing as a loud microphone.
I think some microphones pick up far more than other ones.
That's different. That means it has a broader pickup pattern. It has a greater sensitivity, but that's not loudness. Loudness has to do with how much you increase the slider on the playback. The other thing that people say that when they talk about condenser microphones being louder is the element inside a condenser microphone has very, very low output. If you were to connect, I'm not going to get into the technical side of it, but the reason you have to supply phantom power to a condenser microphone is because it has electronics built into the microphone that actually do an impedance conversion and amplification of the signal coming from the element in the condenser microphone. Since the electronics amplify that signal, whenever you plug in a dynamic microphone and set up your levels on your mixer and get it set right, you then unplug that microphone, plug in a condenser microphone. Now you've got to cut your levels way back because the output of the condenser microphone under most conditions is going to be hotter than the output of a dynamic microphone. The dynamic microphone does not normally have that built-in electronics to increase the output. That's why a lot of people will go out and buy the Electro Voice RE20 or the Heil PR40, and the first thing it says, man, I have to crank this thing all the way up. That is correct, because you're using cheap mixers like the Mackeys and the Behringers and all that, and they are typically used in recording environments with condenser microphones. They are sort of optimized for condenser microphones. In those cases, in recording studios, where dynamic microphones are used, they're generally pointed at a bass drum or a guitar amp. they have no issue with getting enough level out of those dynamic microphones to use those on the mixer. When you use them for voiceover and hopefully backing away from the microphone a little bit so that you don't sound like it's splattering when you're talking, then that requires a lot of gain. The SM7 is one of the world's worst microphones for requiring additional gain. It needs 60 dB of clean gain to work well, which is why people who like that microphone get good results when they purchase either the Fethead adapter or the Cloudlifter CL1 for $99 or $150 respectively. All they do is these adapters, this is a cheap way of saying it, the adapters make the dynamic microphone look like a condenser microphone to the mixer. It increases the output of the microphone to a higher level.
What are they called? They're attenuators?
No, they're amplifiers.
They're
preamps, but they're just preamps.
Okay, I have a recommendation before I have to go to the second service. Andrew, if you're going to use egg cartons to deaden the sound, then I recommend you use extra large.
Extra large. Okay. Not. How about extra large?
Well, jumbo is good. Yeah, jumbo is great if you do that.
Ostrich eggs.
I switched to the ATR 2100 on the dongle on my Galaxy Note 2, so it would reject a little more of the background sound. But anyway, we're fixing to start the second service, so I'll catch you on the flip side. All right.
Thanks, Bruce.
Talk to you later.
But one other comment on using egg crates for sound deadening. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the process is, but I'm going to tell you something. Every egg has salmonella on it. And if you're going to use these things, I don't know what the process is, but I believe I would do some research to find out the best way to make sure that these egg crates have no salmonella on them. I don't know if that means spraying them with Lysol. I don't know if that means leaving them out in the sun for an hour. I don't know what the biological the biology process would be for making sure they don't have it, but that's not something to play around with.
Yeah, but
and I agree with Spence. Remove the eggs first.
I was going to leave the eggs. That was the whole thing. I wanted to leave the eggs in there. I don't know. Now let me ask you this, Mike. One more question. If I know this is comparing apples to oranges, but SM7 or the Neumann TLM 103?
Well, which one do you prefer?
Well, I when I used the SM7, I personally thought I sounded good, but I know how you feel about the SM7.
Well, you keep saying that, but my problem with the SM7 is not that it's bad. There's just nothing special about it in my mind.
Yeah.
I can go get a Shure SM57 that you can buy for $75, put a windscreen on it. In my opinion, it's the same microphone. And they want $300 for these things. That's my complaint with it. That and the very low output. If you said to me, I don't care what you say, you're stupid, I'm going to get an SM7, fine. But make sure you get a Fethead or a Cloudlifter to go with it because they are just very low output. I've got a $1,750 preamp over here that I don't need a Cloudlifter to use an SM7 with it. You don't have one of those, and I don't recommend that you buy it.
I don't know. I'm now I'm a little worried that the Neumann is going to be not good for my environment.
I wouldn't worry about it.
I wouldn't either.
It's just going to pick up every noise, you know. Even though I have a gate, when I'm speaking, it's going to pick up everything in the room.
No, the gate's going to help a lot.
Yeah, the gate helps a lot. And then the other problem is crosstalk. Is there going to be phasing in the studio?
No.
There won't be, okay.
No, because one of the benefits of a nice mic like that one is that the off-axis pickup is accurate, which means that the phasing is less likely to be an issue.
See, that's my major concern. I want it to be very directional. So, like my mic here, the reason why I like this mic so much is because if I get off-axis, you can't hear me. But with the other microphones that I have here, the cheaper condensers that I have in here, if you get off-axis, it doesn't matter. And if I crank up the volumes on the ones right across from me, there's serious phasing happening. So maybe the other option would be to switch those out to dynamics.
Well, it's a difficult problem because dynamics do require a little bit better microphone technique. And when you have guests coming into the studio who are not proficient using microphones, you can get into trouble with some of the dynamics.
Yeah.
I don't always know what the answer is.
Andrew, do you have? Are you using earbuds right now?
I am.
Both ears?
No, just one.
And on the other ear, do you hear a lot of noise in your room that it's really annoying to you?
I mean, right now, there really isn't too much noise in here because I turned 2 computers off. Let me hold on. No, I mean, it's just fan noise, which generally doesn't get picked up anyway because of the gate that I have.
Right.
But my worry is because it's a condenser microphone, it may pick up. There may be more phasing happening in the studio because I'm using a condenser now, but this is a very directional microphone. You know,
Well,
it's straight. The axis is straight.
I think we are more worried about noise being picked up than audience hearing noises. Mike tells me that there's a noise, that he can hear a noise. Nick says that he can hear a noise. But if 99%, I mean, it's a good thing to eliminate that noise.
Yeah.
And in most cases, it's easy to do. But if I had no choice but to live with it, and 99% of the audience will not hear it, and a few people will hear it because they have sensitive equipment or whatever, so be it. I mean, you turn on the radio, you're going to hear noise. There's going to be noise.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I think the quality of a lot of these internet broadcasts, and Mike might not agree, because we're sending it at 128 kilobits per second. The quality of of our audio is far better than the radio,
Right.
and we tend to hear a lot more because we don't have all that processing happening in the background to kind of take it away. We don't have a lot of people don't have gating to take it away. So our environment has to be much better than a radio station.
Cleaner.
It has to be clean. It is cleaner, but we're what's happening is that we're hearing a lot more because of we're hearing the imperfections a lot more than we would with radio.
I agree. But to do away with that noise doesn't take that much. It takes somebody that knows there is noise there. Because if it was up to me to decide, I can put headphones on and listen right now. I don't hear any noise. Mike will do it, and he will hear, and he'll tell me when I turn it on or off. I guess
In other words, Amnon's deaf.
Yeah, I guess I'm going. I mean,
And I hear everything. I mean, my ears are like.
So
And
that's
Andrew hears
good.
things that aren't even there.
Yeah, I hear dog whistles.
So you see, that's good because you can experiment without having to have somebody else, and you can listen and hear the noise and go make a change, hang something somewhere, and go listen again and see if it's still there. I mean, look at Tom, that VidBlaster guy. I mean, in the beginning it was horrible, and as he was talking with Mike, and Mike was telling him about the blankets and about this, and he kept on adding stuff in it. Now it sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I want to talk about something that I did this week, Mike, and I don't know if I'm sure Amnon knows, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers know, but Mike wrote this phenomenal article about Skype ducking. And Mike
Go ahead. I'll sit through this. Go ahead.
Because I'm going to praise you now.
Thank you.
Mike wrote this about a couple months ago. Mike and I were testing for months on how to eliminate Skype ducking, and we tried the Skype hacks.
Explain what you're talking about.
Skype ducking is if I'm speaking at the same time, or if it's a very close. So I'm ending my sentence and Mike starts. It'll duck my audio. It'll drop my volume down where I am not. You can't hear me, but you're hearing Mike. So depending on which end you're listening to of the conversation, someone is getting ducked at all times. Mike figured out a way, and this is because Skype is not
right. That's why
complex connection. There's going to be some sort of ducking, and that's the nature of Skype. And you know what? Skype works phenomenally because of the ducking. It's able to automatically. There's two things. There's the automatic gain, which it kind of knows to lower your volume. It also knows that you're speaking, so it's able to eliminate your volume from feeding back into the system. So it does this weird. It's not really a mix minus, but it does a weird mix minus thing, and it's great for regular conversations. But if you're broadcasting, it's a nightmare because someone is getting ducked at all times. Mike discovered a way to eliminate this. He wrote an article. We posted on the IIB, and the way that he did it through a SIP client. I'm not using a SIP client. I'm actually using a second instance of Skype. So what we are doing is we have 2 instances of Skype running on both sides of the conversation. Mike will have his 2 copies of Skype running, and I'll have 2 instances of Skype on the same computer. One is sending audio, and the other one is receiving audio. So now there will be it's no ducking because there's no audio feeding into the system on that Skype connection. We did this on Friday with Spencer Copen's setup when he called the free-for-all. And Mike, night and day. I mean, it was almost like he was in the room having a conversation with us.
You can argue, and it still every word is being heard.
Every word is being heard. When we're playing music, he's not getting the music isn't like the music bed is not killing his audio. It was totally different to do a show like this. Totally.
Mike, why isn't there an audio client that does full duplex?
Well, there is.
Which one?
All of the SIP clients are full duplex.
Okay, so why couldn't you use Skype just for the video and then use Blink in between? Instead of setting and going to this and that and do all kind of somersaults, why can't you just do away with the audio in Skype, use it just for video, and then use Blink or any other SIP to do the audio back and forth?
Well,
stepped in it. You just stepped right in it.
Okay.
Couldn't have laid a better trap if I wanted to.
All right.
Well, go ahead, Mike.
For starters, the SIP audio is not as good as the Skype audio.
Understood.
All right, so you want the Skype return audio for the fidelity. That's one reason.
Oh.
A second and equal reason is that you have to be really careful to make sure the audio and video stay in sync. And if you carry the audio with the video on Skype, it has a much better chance of being in sync than it does if you use a separate client that has a slightly different latency factor. The third is that what the solution that you are suggesting is not any more complicated to set up than what I'm suggesting. The article that I wrote suffers from the same problem that many technical articles do, and that is if you don't understand what the article is saying, it's really hard to follow. But I will assure you that once you get it, once you finally understand what's being said, it's a piece of cake. I mean, I saw that with Nick. Nick and I were working it out and testing it, making sure I understood what I was doing. And Nick didn't get it at first, and about 10 minutes later, he mastered it. I mean, it was just I get it. It's not that hard. And it's not that hard because you could actually do the same thing this way, and this is the easiest way I know to understand how it works. And that is that, let's suppose that I'm going to be on Andrew's show, and he wants we don't want the Skype ducking issue. I need to be able to speak to Andrew such that when he talks back to me, his talking back to me doesn't mute my audio coming to him on Skype. We've talked about it, Amnon. In the old days, we used to use speakerphones to put people on the radio. Remember that? Before there were digital hybrids?
Yep.
Might be a little before, not when you got involved.
Charlie.
Charlie what?
Charlie's Angel, Charlie.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly how it was done. But in the old days, before there were digital hybrids, Gary will appreciate this because he's really old too. That you would actually take a transformer and come out of the speaker on the speakerphone and go into the console, such that when you're talking into the when you're talking into the speakerphone, the other side can hear you, and when you stop talking, then you can hear them. If the other side's talking, depending on how your levels are set, if you start talking, then they go away. You talk, and in the radio business, before the delays, that was actually a good thing, because if somebody started saying, whoa, wait a minute, and when you talk over them, the caller's voice goes away because your you're overriding them. And that's what Skype does because it's half duplex. I don't care what anybody tells you. It's half duplex. And so only one person can talk at a time. It's a very good half duplex, but it's half duplex. So what happens is that if you take the return audio away from the Skype channel, then there is nothing to mute the audio. So what I'm getting to is this little setup. It's really absolutely nothing magical or complex. Let's suppose that the quickest way I could demonstrate how it works is I call Andrew on Skype. He's picking me up on Skype, and we are talking on GFQ. When I talk, then Andrew hears me coming through his Skype computer. Now, when Andrew talks back to me, let's suppose that he took his Google Voice account, opened it up on one of his computers, dialed me on his Google Voice account, and I answered him on my telephone. Such that now when I talk to Andrew over the microphone, he gets me on Skype, but when he talks back to me, he has a mix-minus feed on Google Voice talking to me on the phone. When I talk to him on the microphone, he picks me up. When he talks to me on the telephone, there's no interaction between the two, so there's no ducking. But all I would suggest, and where it gets complicated, is Andrew is using 2 instances of Skype instead of 1 plus a telephone, or 1 plus a SIP client like Blink, which is what we use because it's less bandwidth, it's low latency, it works extremely well, it's easy to use, and it's free.
And we like them.
And we like them. But that's as complex as it is. It's just not that complicated once you've taken the time to get the flow. It gets a little, when you're running 2 on one computer, it gets a little confusing because you got to make sure that not only do you have the right send and receive selected in both instances of Skype or Skype and Blink, but you have to make sure that the return audio and the receive audio on alternate clients are muted or it won't work. That's about as deep as we need to go into that now.
I mean, it's absolutely simple. I mean, it's really easy, even with 2 instances.
I mean, Andrew figured it out.
Yeah.
No, your article is very, very detailed about this, Mike. I mean,
it
works.
It's as simple as just clicking on the audio source. That's it. If you're sending video, then you're sending audio. That's all.
It worked. We use it, and the reason I came up with it is because I produce Rick's House radio show. Rick is in Florida. I'm in North Carolina. We stream it to a radio station in Tennessee, a terrestrial radio station. We also simulcast it on Mixlr for the people who are unable to pick up the signal in Tennessee. The problem we would have is that I play the music from here, the theme music, the after the break music, and because Rick likes to make music a part of his show, he lets 30, 45 seconds of the song play because he likes the song. It kind of sets the mood. With Skype and duplex, half duplex, whenever I was playing the music, the first time we did it, I would play the music, and he would start talking from Florida. As soon as he started talking, the music would dip. So he starts thinking that he's lost his return audio. Welcome to Rick's House, and soon every time he'd stop talking, the music would come back in. And you could tell that it was really distracting to him. So I said, we got to fix that. That's whenever I came up with this other solution. And now, it particularly works well because when we take telephone calls now, we do a segment called The Tennessee Traveler with Alan Williams from Channel 6 in Knoxville. And he calls in on the phone, but I call him on a SIP client, which is full duplex. The channel between Rick and me is full duplex, and Rick and Alan can talk to each other just as if they're on the same telephone call. Nobody's ducking, nobody's competing for the foreground sound. It works amazingly well. It's interesting how... Don't get me started. It's interesting how some of these podcasters who've read it and they've sent me messages, oh, that's just too complicated. We just use Skype. It works well for us. And it's tempting to respond, yeah, I've heard your podcast and I understand why you're not concerned about quality. But I don't.
But Andrew, I don't know. I don't know if it was just me. I can't believe it was just me because. Also, what I'm trying to say is you were out of sync on Vaughn, on Ustream. No, on Vaughn and on Justin, you were fine.
It might have been just you because I checked and I asked a bunch of people, and they all said I was fine.
I don't understand why it was fine on Justin. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it could have been you. I mean, normally I don't have a sync issue.
Okay.
But it really shouldn't have affected mine. I mean, the Skype thing has nothing to do with my end because my video is just whatever I'm getting here in the studio. But it happens at times where one or one of them will lose sync. I mean, it's not my production. I guess it's a service. It could be anything. I mean, it's there's so many things that go into getting everything working right.
Right. 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. Steve dropped out and looks like he is not online at all. Wonder if something happened to his internet. But he's not on chat.
Mike, I also discovered a weird here was a little problem we found with doing the Skype full duplex trick.
Oh, you give it to me, now you're taking it away.
Now I'm taking something away. So if you happen to crank your headphones up too high,
right,
it's going to feed back in.
Right.
So we are having this issue with Spencer's audio. So we got everything working, and I'm hearing a faint echo coming through. And it's the headphones. It's his headphones, and he has earbuds. So I don't even know how it's going in, but I'm hearing myself through the earbuds.
Yep.
And the way I tried to fix this by cranking his, put the gate up a little bit, but he believes that the gate affects his audio quality. So it's a battle to get him to crank that up. But that would be something to,
Yeah, you can solve that by getting a hearing aid.
I mean, and I don't think, and he doesn't really crank it up too high, but he had it on, and I was hearing everything coming through the headphone.
He obviously does.
Mike, your article said that you can absolutely, positively cannot use speakers.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Even the way that we're using the speakers here with the...
Correct.
Interesting.
Because there's no ducking. So it's just going to feed right in. There's no echo cancellation. That's the purpose of Skype. I mean, the echo cancellation works. That's why everybody's able to, just talk via laptop and nothing goes back.
Well, look, it's an age-old problem, even in recording studios. Have you ever heard the voice track of a recording session where it's just the group singing and they take the music track away? You might hear it periodically on a news story. You can even find them on YouTube. You'll always hear the music very faintly in the background because they're listening. They have on headphones and they're sitting there listening to the music track so they can sing along with it. It's exactly the same thing. That sound is there. The problem with this setup is that there is latency inherent in Skype and in the SIP client if you use it.
In any sound processor.
Say again?
In any sound or voice processor that has to go in as one and being translated and come back out, there's going to be latency. Right?
Well, any latency can come from a processor, but it also comes from Skype. It also comes from the SIP client, because whenever we do it with Rick, he's about deaf, so he not only did he have to crank up his headphones, he had to go get a headphone amplifier to be able to hear well enough. But but nobody can hear it. I mean, 98% of the people out there would never be able to hear it, and I actually added some gating to his return audio, so the problem is even lower. Well, let me ask you, which would you rather have, that faint feedback that nobody can hear, or the ducking?
Well, I think people could hear it. I was able to hear it on the stream.
I don't think people could.
I think his fix would be either to drop his gain on the microphone a little bit,
Nope.
or just click the gate one more. That'll remove it, because I'm not going to hear myself through that. Or he could crank down his headphones a little bit.
The one is the Gary. We'll get into this in a minute. Gary and I are disagreeing on something here.
That's all right. I wanted to mention to everybody that is not aware that Andrew of the GFQ Network, if you just go to gfqnetwork.com, Andrew does a show and he does other shows, and that's what we're talking about here. And Andrew
Guys from Queens.com.
Yeah, guys from Queens. Whole lot easier to type GFQ Network, though.
I think so. I think it's a whole lot easier. And then the other thing was that I spent a lot of time with Skype, and it's amazing that if you spend some time with something, you could actually fix some of these issues. The Skype has a tendency to have a terrible hiss, and the hiss is there depending on the sound card that you're using. So there's a lot of variables that go into this. I figured out that if Spencer were to drop his mic volume to me, and I'm looking at the levels on his computer with TeamViewer, and his sound card is just hitting max, over and over again. So I dropped him 50%, and I brought him up a little bit on my end. Hiss was totally gone.
Well, you have to adjust your equipment correctly. You can misuse anything.
I mean, a lot of people overlook that. I mean, they really do.
Well, audio is not important.
It's not.
So I posted, speaking of audio, you wouldn't think that something like this would be controversial, but I posted, as a matter of curiosity, that's not what I wanted to do, copy this. A guy was asking about certain microphones and which one to use, this and that and so forth. And so I decided to create a little test. And what I did was I recorded 5 different USB microphones on a test and uploaded them to SoundCloud.com. I just put the link to the test in the chat room. And if you're not in chat, it's soundcloud.com/getbetteraudio, and I think it's the only file there. But what it does is it allows you to listen, and it's my voice in my studio, but it allows you to compare the sound of 5 different microphones. You can decide which ones you like, which ones you don't like. That's the real test. Unfortunately, my PR40 is not among those microphones being tested because
I have no idea what that PR40 is.
It's kind of evaporated. It's kind of disappeared. I think it's been sold for drugs or something. But but anyway, one day if I ever get it back, if I'm ever lucky enough to get it back, I'm going to be doing some more tests because a lot of interest has been created, and a lot of people have sent me some very nice private messages saying that it really helps them to understand how these things work. One jackass accused me of using it as a way to build my Twitter followers, and as a matter of curiosity,
Who said that?
I'll tell you who it is if I can find it.
Somebody who has no clue.
Well, it's in one of the Google communities. I am an admin in Podcasting Technology Resource Group on Google Communities. That's where I spend most of my time. But there is another group that Jeff can't remember his last name.
Yeah.
What's his name? The guy with the beard.
I can't remember.
Powers. Jeffrey Powers.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Powers had called Podcasters, which is the biggest one that I've seen so far. And then there's another group called Podcasting that I don't know who the guys in it are. I don't know them, but it's a good little group too. It's 446 members. Ours has about 620, and Jeff Powers' group has about 1,800. With growth comes problems, but that's okay. But anyway, I posted it in, let's see, this is the podcasting group, which I believe is owned by a guy named Mike. No, it's owned by either William Williams or Shannon Hernandez. One of the two is the owner. I know how to figure out. I know how to do that because it'll show you, I think, members. You go to moderators.
But wait a minute. I see it. It's the first one.
Shannon Hernandez owns the group, and it's a good group. I don't know why we have to have so many, but we have it. But anyway, if you go to that podcasting group, I posted it last night at 10 o'clock, and this circle jerker called the Bitch, what is it, the Bitch Spot Report podcast. And his comment is, "Oh good, a cheesy attempt to get lots of followers on Twitter. No thanks." And I responded, "I guess you missed the part. Send me a message on Google+. I could not care less about you following me on Twitter." But as a matter of curiosity, because you like to know who these people are, I clicked on his link and followed through to see what he is. Not only is he a very mixed up person with regard to where he stands on some important topics in life, but he is also pod-faded for the moment. So I guess I'm not really concerned. And I listened to his podcast, and I don't believe he's very concerned about quality anyway. So this was probably not an appropriate test for him to evaluate. The dummies.
I just wrote to him. I wrote, "Are you insane?"
I mean, the point being that, like I wrote, I gave him an option to anybody. You can message me on Google+ if we're in the same group, which we are. And if you follow me on Twitter and get the information and then unfollow me, what's the harm? I mean, that's no trick there.
People are mentally ill. I'll tell you that.
I unfollowed several people in the last 3 days on Twitter because I think they're mentally ill. I have no idea about this guy. I don't know anything about him. We've never connected. But I just thought that here is a response. Oh, good, a cheesy attempt to get lots of followers on Twitter. No thanks. Is just absolutely adds nothing to the conversation. It doesn't contribute it. I'm probably going to delete that entire post from the group if they don't delete it ahead of time. So, whatever.
Don't you think you put enough time into that jerk?
It's just a curiosity to me. I mean, it's almost from a psychological perspective. It's almost fascinating to see what motivates these people.
Mental illness.
Well, I don't know that. I don't know the guy. He may, if he were sitting here, he doesn't know me either. He doesn't know if I'm just out there fishing for followers or whether I'm sincere. But anyone who's followed me for more than about 5 minutes know that I don't ask for anything from anybody. All I try to do is pass it out and help and share. And if you want it, fine. If you don't, let's let it go.
So you were talking with Gary about
what Gary and I are talking about is we're back to this issue of the windows being slanted in the control room. And the reason I said that it was slanted was to point the reflections to the floor. And Gary had a heart attack, said, no, that's not the case. He said, the only reason to have slanted windows is to avoid parallel surfaces. Well, that's parallel and perpendicular surfaces. I do not disagree with that in any way, shape, or form. I absolutely agree that you're trying to avoid parallel surfaces. But I think that the reason you avoid parallel surfaces is to avoid the predictable reflections or the repeatable reflections. And he says it's not true that it's slanted downward to point it to the floor. He said it doesn't matter whether it's pointed up or down. And I know what he's saying. And as far as saying that it's breaking up the parallel or perpendicular surfaces, I agree it makes no difference. But I have seen situations where the floor is carpeted and rather quiet, pointing it down to the floor kills more reflections than pointing it at a hard ceiling. So maybe your experience is different. Gary is very, very smart on this stuff, and I trust him. And quite candidly, there is no doubt in my mind he knows significantly more about room acoustics than I do, because that's the sort of thing he's been involved in his whole life.
That's what he does.
So, and I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying I disagree with part of the characterization that it matters. If, again, you send the sound reflecting to the ceiling. If you got a hard ceiling, you're going to get more reflections. If you reflect them down to the floor, and well, Gary just said the ceiling is not hard. It's usually acoustic tile. You just use the correct word. Usually, it depends. Sometimes the floor is tile, and the acoustic tile on the ceiling would provide less reflections. Depending on what obstructions are in the room, pointing it to a hard floor might create fewer reflections because it would then be reflected into the side of a desk instead of being reflected all over the room. What I tell people, and the reason I am not an expert in acoustics, never have been, never will be, I've tried, it's hopeless, is that, in my opinion, except for a very, very, very few people, doing room acoustics is black science. It's as mysterious to me as some RF circuits.
And Spence is with us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you guys?
Well, the question is, how are you?
Yep.
I'm doing pretty good. I've made some progress. I've probably overdid it this week by getting a little too overconfident and knocking myself out. But no, I'm doing better. I mean, I'm definitely every day is a little better.
Well, that's what counts.
It's interesting because I've been listening since the show started this morning, and it's been very unusual for me to sit here and just be listening. But I figured I'd just take advantage of it and enjoy the different perspective for once.
Why are you on 2K Voice?
Oh, because I'm not presentable.
Okay. All right.
Plus, I'm sitting in my easy chair in the living room, and I really wouldn't be very photographic anyway. So.
Plus, he wanted to keep me company too.
Yeah, that's right, Bruce.
Man, they just delivered pizza to the green room in a tub full of strawberries with a can of whipped cream. It's really a tough gig. But
talk to you later, Bruce.
I mean, I'm still here. I've already had my pizza.
Oh, okay.
One of these days, the technology will exist where I can send you a slice of pizza via Skype file transfer. Won't that be nice?
You know, I'm gonna tell a funny story here, and it's funny in the sense that it's very sad. I went on a date with somebody years ago, and she looked at me. I was talking to a friend about technology, and this is maybe 10 years ago. And she goes, "You know what? I don't understand. I don't understand how we are able to fax paper, but we can't fax like a can of soda or like a hamburger." And I was like, "Oh, what do you mean?" She's like, "Well, everybody's faxing paper. Like everybody's like, oh, can you fax me that document? I don't understand why someone's just not like, can you fax me a can of Coke?" And I go, well, how do you think a fax machine works? And she looked at me like I asked her the dumbest question. She goes, well, you put the paper in there and it makes a copy and it sends the paper over. She actually thought that there's like a series of tubes connecting fax machines to other fax machines, and you actually send the paper over.
Yeah, you should have told her that, you know, that slot where you put the paper, just pour the Coke in there.
Yeah. Like, how come we can't fax hamburgers and cans of Coke?
Yeah.
I went over to at our office. We have a very big dust collection. We have a very big shredder, gigantic console-sized shredder. And I was standing there one day feeding some stuff in it, and I had not been at the company very long. Somebody walked in, and I said, "This fax machine sure is noisy." She stopped and looked at me, wondering whether
I always thought that the best high security printer would be a printer that fed the paper right into a shredder. That way, you don't have to worry about the print getting into the wrong hands.
So, do we have specials, or you didn't have that?
Oh, I do. I do have specials.
You do?
And that's what I've been working on here.
Hey, guys, I got to run, though.
All right, Andrew.
All right, I'll see you guys.
Talk to you later.
Bring up.
Andrew, what did I say?
What did you say?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
As soon as I get here, you'll leave.
I know. I'm sorry. It's 11.
That's okay.
I have to go out. All right, guys. I'll be listening.
All right. See ya.
All right, guys. Bye.
He's normally
Bye.
drinking by 11 o'clock. And it's
11:30, Mike.
11 o'clock.
11:30.
Well, so you want me to do the specials now?
Sure.
I can do that. And I actually talk about a couple of little things, little projects. As I am allowed to do more things, I've been taking on some small projects. And at the suggestion of my boss, he says, "Why don't you do all those little PC things that you just want to do and you never get a chance to do?" And I said, "Oh, that list wouldn't be very short, unfortunately. It'd be a very long list." But I did actually start on a few projects. Okay. So, starting with Office Max, they have a HP DeskJet wireless printer, scanner, copier. This has with duplex two-sided printing and smartphone printing for $79. Save $20. They've got 8 gig flash drives for $8.99, 16 gig flash drives for $5.99. I'm sorry, and 16 gig flash drives for $8.99. And that is not necessarily the best price out there today, but this is a quality drive. There's some real brand X stuff out there, which probably will work fine. Maybe $1 less. They've got an Acer 20-inch LED monitor for $99. That's $30 off. Acer 22-inch LED monitor for $109, $20 off. They've got an Epson V33 photo scanner for $59, save $20, and that's the kind that will hold either a slide or a negative in place. It's got the special adapter. You can scan a photo, but you can also scan slides and negatives. So $59, save $20. They've got a no-name brand 1 terabyte USB 3.0 portable hard drive for $79. I'd be interested in opening that up and seeing just what hard drive manufacturer they're actually using. They've got a Brother wireless mono laser printer with duplex printing for $99. That's at Office Max. At Tiger Direct, they've got 15.6-inch Acer i3 laptop, $379, $20 off. They've got Kingston flash drives, USB flash drives, 8 gig for $5.99, 16 gig for $8.99, 32 gig for $17.99. They've got a Planar brand 22-inch touchscreen LED monitor for $269. They have a SanDisk 128 gig solid state drive that's a 2.5-inch format, $99. They also have a 2 terabyte Caviar Black 3.5-inch internal hard drive for $159. That's $10 off. And they have a Western Digital Caviar Blue 1 terabyte drive, $79. Save how much does it say? Save $10. That's
I'm
at
not
Tiger
a fan
Direct.
of the blue drives.
What's that?
I'm not a fan of the blue drives.
Yeah, I've been reading back and forth between the blue and the black. And although some of the blues that I've gotten had very good ratings.
I've had good luck with some of the blues, thankfully, but I've had all it's saying is that I've lost more blues than blacks.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen a few bad blues.
Yep. Well, that's what you get, black and blue.
Yeah.
All right, and that was at Tiger Direct. At Office Depot, and this was particularly interesting because I know you, Mike, and I are both big fans of Lenovo laptops. I very much like the one I have. I've had other ones. I'm a big fan of the fact that they've maintained the quality that IBM had when they took over the IBM products. But 15.6-inch Lenovo i3 laptop, $359, $120 off. Seagate Backup Plus desktop hard drive, 2 terabytes for $99, save $10. 3 terabytes for $129, save $10. They've also got
a question.
Sure.
I hate to keep interrupting you, but I'll forget it if we don't come back.
Oh, no problem.
How is Seagate able to offer those drives so much cheaper than Western Digital?
I don't know. Although I do see some Western Digital. There are some other Western Digitals on sale.
Yeah, but the list prices are even lower. I mean, the Seagate drives are as like 30% less expensive than what appears to be the equivalent Western Digital drive.
Could be the software. I know that I have a Western Digital backup drive, 2 terabyte, and the software is actually quite sophisticated. I haven't installed a Seagate in a while, so I don't know if their software would be much different.
All right, and one other question while we're at it. Can you run a 3 terabyte drive on XP?
Probably not. You're gonna max out. It's not going to be able to recognize the drive.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So be careful with that. All right. Sorry.
Yeah. But still, think about it. A 3 terabyte drive for $129. That the raw drive would cost more than that. So they've got Samsung. Oh no, I didn't finish the portable ones. I'm sorry. They have a Seagate Backup Plus portable hard drives. 1 terabyte for $79, save $10. 500 gig for $59, save $10. They've got a Samsung 20, and they're very specific about this, 23.6-inch LED monitor for $149, save $50. And I guess sometimes you'll see those ads. It'll say 24-inch class monitor.
Right.
That's just a clever way of saying it's not 24 inches. It's something less than that. It's not 23, but it's more than 20. It's more than 23, but less than 24. So be aware of that term that's used by several.
Same thing with TVs.
Yeah, I see that a lot at Best Buy. It's a bit disingenuous. So 23.6 inch for $149, save $50. Brother, a printer, scanner, fax, copier, inkjet printer, $59, save $40. That's at Office Depot. At Best Buy, they do have an HP 20-inch LED monitor for $89, a 21.5-inch IPS LED monitor for $129. They've got a Logitech MK520 wireless keyboard and mouse for $49, save $10. They have a Seagate 4 terabyte USB 3.0 Backup Plus drive for $149, save $40. And the 3 terabyte is $129, save $10. Western Digital, 500 gig, 2.5-inch raw laptop drive. This is if you want to upgrade or potentially have a second operating system to run on your laptop. $54, save $5. This is at Best Buy. At Staples, they've got a Microsoft Bluetooth or touch mouse, either of those two types, for $17.99. That's $22 off the regular price. Microsoft 2000 wireless keyboard and mouse combo, $24.99. That's $25 off. And the Logitech Wave wireless keyboard and mouse, $49 with $30 off, and that's at Staples. Have you guys talked about Microsoft at all today? I was in and out.
Well, we had a Microsoft guest.
But I mean, just talking about the Microsoft business in general and
no, I don't think so.
Go ahead.
The articles.
What do you got in mind?
Oh, just interesting. I was just following. I follow stories on Microsoft from a business perspective, and one of the sites that I use that I browse around at is there's two. One is an application called Zite, Z-I-T-E, for the iPad, which is excellent as a aggregator of any kind of category of news story. It doesn't matter. It's not just technology. But I use that for technology and business and so on. But I use Extreme Tech as one of my sites to go to for tech stories. And they had an article, the tablet market is now almost PC size, but Windows 8 and RT continue to flounder. And it was very interesting to talk about how disappointed they are, despite the fact that Microsoft sold in the first quarter 900,000 Surface tablets. It's still well under what they expected, and that it just gives some really good rundowns on total number of shipments in the tablet space where Apple has by far the largest market share, although it's been eroded quite a bit. Samsung is second. Apple has 40% of the market in the first quarter of 2013, 40%. Samsung has almost 18%, Asus 5%, Amazon 3%, Microsoft 1%, and then others make up 31%. But it was very interesting to see how, despite their best efforts and all of their advertising and all this stuff, that it still doesn't, Microsoft still has not impacted the market the way they thought they would with the tablet.
I think we knew they weren't.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, but the second part of this is that they've already starting to talk about now the follow-on to Windows 8. And with their new release cycle, there may be, I'm not sure if it's going to hit in a service pack or hit in an actual release, but they're talking about enhancements, and the under the breath hint that you're getting is that they may be tweaking the interface to restore or have a looks like Windows 7 mode.
Yeah, they're going to call it something else to save face.
They're going to call it something else, yep. And they're going to be, and in fact, if you've seen their commercials, some of the commercials that they've had, they actually talk about, I love Windows 8. Look, here's that good old desktop that you know and love, right? They're showing like people on the street, here's Windows 8 kind of a thing. And they mention that. And yeah, it's not quite what you think, but yeah, here's that good old desktop. So they know, you can see they're definitely understanding
that they screwed up.
Yes.
And by the way, BlackBerry CEO is saying that the tablet market is going to be dead by 2018. But keep going.
And replaced with what?
Yeah, I keep going. Never mind. We'll get to it later.
No, that was about it, though. But just as I watch Microsoft kind of self-destruct in certain ways, I mean, their revenues are still doing well because of the server division and applications and things like that. But the hardware thing has just not paid off for them.
All right, so keep going with the specials.
Consumer. No, that's it. I'm done with the
specials. Okay.
That was it. Yep.
All right, let's see. Who called in?
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Eric. How you doing?
Hi, Eric.
Good. I have a question in regard to upgrading some memory on a Dell Dimension computer running Windows 7 64-bit, and there's 4 DIMM slots. In one of the slots, it had 2 gig of DDR2 in there. And then I went over to one of the stores and bought another 2 gig chip. And same clock speed, and there's just different brands. One is Centon, and the other was Corsair, I guess.
Okay.
And so there's 2 white slots and 2 black slots. And from my understanding is when you put them in the same color-coded slots, then it should run dual channel. Is that correct?
Correct.
If it's identical memory.
Yeah. If it's identical, that's right.
So the brand really shouldn't matter as long as it's the same clock speed and voltage and so forth?
Correct. I doubt it's going to. Some of this stuff changes with time, and we get old here, but unless the memory is identical, it's not going to run dual port, and whether that will, I don't know, but I've never seen any difference with identical versus mismatched memory in terms of performance. Maybe there are some applications where it's obvious, but I've never been able to tell the difference.
Well, I also looked up in the BIOS when it first booted up in the setup, and it does show, 4 gigs installed, dual channel, so it looks like the system recognized it and all. So then this is the problem. I went into the Windows performance check, and it says, notice new hardware. Do you want to update your statistics where it shows you, the RAM, the processor, the graphics? So it starts running through this check, and it freezes up on the graphics portion and does this blue screen dump.
Wow.
And yeah, so I don't know.
Is it
I am running?
Is it onboard graphics
No,
card?
No, it's an NVIDIA dual monitor card that I have.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't think that it has anything to do with the memory, but I mean, if it just can't get past this performance check, I mean, I know that these are just statistics that show you, you know, how your computer's running, and then they give you like the lowest one is where, I guess what it
You
gives
see, if you didn't
overall.
if you didn't run that test, everything would have been okay.
Well, the thing is, I can get past the test and boot back into Windows. And would you just say just run the computer? Don't worry about.
No, I would never say that. To me, if it doesn't pass, that's a simple test. If it doesn't pass it, there are other issues pending.
Yeah.
The first thing I would do, because you don't know where the problem is, you need to isolate it. The first thing I would do, Amnon may have a different way, and Amnon has some tricks I don't use, but first thing I would do is go back in and take out the new memory module,
That's exactly
rerun
what
the
I do.
tests, make sure that something else hasn't changed along the way. That's the very first thing that I would do. The second thing that I would do is I would put that memory module back in, take it out, put it back in, take it out, put it back in 2 or 3 times. Then I would reboot the computer and try to run that test again. The reason why is because unused memory slots the contacts on them can oxidize over time. When you plug in a brand new memory module, they do not always make perfect contact. Now, I do something as a technician that I do not always recommend that others do because you can get into trouble. I use a contact cleaner called Deoxit, D-E-O-X-I-T, that whenever I am putting memory into a computer, I almost invariably am going to treat the contacts on that memory module with this contact cleaner. And you only use a microscopic amount, and you only leave a tiny amount on there, and enough that it can actually get on the contacts of the socket. I've had critical situations where I've actually had to spray the socket on the motherboard and then let it sit a while. But generally speaking, that's usually what a memory error is in the real world, is bad contacts between the memory module and the memory module itself. Once you are sure that the contacts are clean and clear and you've worked them or treated them with a good contact cleaner, if it still messes up, then you can run a utility called MemTest, M-E-M-T-E-S-T. MemTest you boot to CD, possibly to a USB stick, but MemTest will then run this intensive memory test multiple times to let you know if it's running into a memory issue on your board. If MemTest runs for, what does it have to run, Amnon? 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours to get a good feel?
Depends how much memory you have.
So you let it run a long time. If it shows no errors, then you boot back into Windows, see if it still has the same problem. At that point, depending on what issue you're running into, the way that you diagnose it would vary. There is a program that I have started using that seems to be pretty neat. It's called Who Crashed by Resplendence, R-E-S-P-L-E-N-D-E-N-C-E, Resplendence, RESPLENDENCE.com. It's called Who Crashed. It's a home edition that's free. What it does when you start the program is you click on the Analyze button, it looks through your dump files, and it comes up with a guess as why it thinks your computer had a blue screen of death. It's particularly helpful if you see it pointing to the video card. If it's a video card, then the issue may be one with the video card that didn't show up until you added the additional memory. I'm not saying that's the case. It may or may not be the case. You may have a memory card issue, or you could have a bad memory module. There is, I just thought of one other thing I would do as a matter of troubleshooting, and that is that I would open the computer, I would take out both memory modules, put the new memory module in place of the old memory module, boot it, and see if you run into any issues. if the memory module is bad, it is more likely to show up as bad as being the only memory module than it is as the second memory module, because theoretically more of it's going to be used.
Mike, because of Skype ducking, Eric said something in the beginning. I heard you start saying, I already done this, about removing the old memory, the new memory, Eric?
Yes, I did. I went back and after I put in the new memory and I got that error, then I went in and put back the old memory. I tried that in the slot. Then I tried the new memory in the slot just with the 2 gig. And it still was showing up just on that performance test.
Okay, the thing that I would try and do is take out your video card and plug it in and out a few times, like Mike was saying, to do with the memory. Do the same thing with the video card.
Okay.
Because it could be that, I mean, it's very easy that when you put in new memory in there, that you moved the video card just a little bit, that the oxidation now is apparent to the card.
Okay.
So I would unplug and plug and unplug the card a few times and try that.
I mean, the other thing is I could delete the drivers for the card, pull out the card. And just,
I don't know.
Not yet. Not yet. Don't mask the problem, because if you've got a hardware issue, you're in the best position to find it now instead of starting to delete software problems.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I was going to say just to use the onboard video.
No. You want to find out the problem. I mean, then if you do the onboard and it passes, what does that tell you at that point? You're going to throw away the video card? No. You need to find out if it's just, obviously, if it keeps on doing it, no matter what you do, and it means that the card is bad, because RAM on the card can go bad. I don't know that I will worry about it much, to tell you the truth, unless it affects Windows itself when it's working. But I would like to find out what the problem is.
Yeah, I don't trust anything.
Here's an idea, just as something else to try, just to eliminate possibilities. Go out and download a version of Ubuntu Live Disk and boot the computer from that Live Disk and see how it operates. Don't install it, of course. Just let it run as a Live Disk, and it'll bring up a desktop. It'll give you a browser. It'll turn on.
I mean, he doesn't have a problem running Windows.
Yeah, he can run Windows.
Windows is running fine. It's only his performance test that's messing up. So
well,
putting Ubuntu
where did the blue screen come from?
When he's running. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's when I run the performance test, and it gets hung up. I don't know, on the 3D Aero graphics something.
Oh, so this is the DXW, or what do you call it? The DirectX testing.
Yeah. I think that's where it's.
Now, if it's a DirectX testing, then it could be a DirectX driver issue. I thought you said when it got to the graphics period, it was doing this.
Well, I don't.
You need to pay attention. Yeah, you need to look and see.
Yeah, it can be deceiving, because one of the things, Eric, that I talked about last week, I think I did. If I didn't, I meant to, because I think it's helpful. I have a computer over here that I use for a file server that has 7 hard drives in it that I can access from anywhere in the house. And for some reason, it's a relatively new motherboard speaking, but it's for an old processor, a Pentium 4 processor. And I started getting blue screen of death periodically. It would happen randomly. It made no sense at all. Then that's when I started doing some troubleshooting. I had already reinstalled, it has XP on it. I had already reinstalled XP once, and with the same issue. I then did this who crashed, and it would periodically say, it doesn't always report the same error, it would periodically say that I was having a problem with the S3 graphics card. I did some research and determined that the S3 onboard graphics card on this particular computer The last driver written for it was in 2007. The driver was presenting a problem, probably because there had been some Windows update that changed something the driver didn't like. Well, what do you do whenever you have onboard video that's creating a problem? There's no update for the driver. And Amnon gave me a PCI Express video card that I put in there. When I put the card in there, it disables the onboard card, doesn't load the driver for it. I installed the latest drivers for this video card, and knock on wood, now a week later, I've had no issues.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the troubleshooting was to try to determine that it was the video card that was causing the blue screen of death on the computer, and then by trial and error, by using a different card with the theory that it disables the internal card, then I was able to, I hope, solve the problem. I was thinking about getting an X-Acto knife and cutting the graphics chip off the motherboard if that's what it took to get rid of the problem.
Yeah. Okay.
So you are running DXDiag.
I did not try running that.
Try running that and just seeing if it, to go through all the different tests, to the rendering tests, to see that there's not a DirectX driver.
Is that just from a
command line? Yeah, just from a command prompt. Just type in DXDiag, DXDiag, and it will bring up the
.exe or anything, or
no, just type in that and you'll find it and you can run it.
It's already part of the operating system.
Yeah, it's built in. It's kind of like shortcuts are built in for you. So.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll try all this, and hopefully there's a solution here.
Well, let us know how it goes. I mean, it's kind of like a doctor who gives you a pill. I don't know whether you get well or pass away. So let us know. Let us know how it works out for you, because it would be helpful to others to be able to know how you did.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay. Bye-bye.
And Bruce just dropped out. I guess he had to go back. Back to playing.
So I was saying that I started a couple of small projects, and one is to finally get around to capturing all these 8mm digital 8 and DV disc or DV tapes that I have in boxes from over the years that I'm afraid will eventually deteriorate to the point, or the actual camcorders will fail, that I won't be able to capture them anymore. Excuse me. So I've been starting to capture them. Go to mute for a second. Sorry, I didn't want to have for you to hear me cough. But,
it's okay.
But I bought to support this. I have a FireWire port on the machine, of course, to plug in the devices, which still seem to work okay. And to support this, though, I said, I've got several drives, USB hard drives in cases that I use, and I got many generations of them. I do have USB 3.0, but I decided, what I've got for what I'm going to do here, I need more flexibility, and I just don't want to have all these cases. So I bought one of those eSATA / USB 3.0 drive docks for SATA drives, and it literally is just a box that you sit on the table. It's got an eSATA and a USB 3.0 connection as well as power, and it's slightly angled, and you can just drop the drive in. It'll take a 2.5-inch or a 3.5-inch drive. It's actually got a little door on it, so if it's a 2.5-inch drive, it doesn't push the door open. The slot is there, so you align correctly with the connector. And I bought a bunch. I have so many different raw drives laying around that I can use that it makes it so much easier for me to switch, and I can choose either eSATA or USB 3.0. And incidentally, USB 3.0 is actually faster. And I've started to do this and with great success. And I've tried both the built-in capturing that's part of Windows 7 and Windows 8, as well as using Sony Vegas Premium to do the capturing. And it's working out really well. And it's nice because I can just start it and let it run. It has to be done in real time, unfortunately. That tape has to play, usually an hour. But I don't have to sit there and watch it, which is nice. And I've getting one thing out of the way.
Spence, how long have you been out of work?
This is my second week.
Second week. And
but I mean,
you're already getting antsy, and you have to do stuff.
Oh, not that I'm antsy.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
I can't do physical projects. I'm not allowed to lift anything. I'm not allowed to bend over. I'm not. So I can't do anything that involves, like home repair or anything like that. So I'm looking for things that I can sit in my chair in my office and not have to. Because you get to the point where catching up on Netflix and Amazon Premium Video, you start to get headaches just watching too much television. So
sure.
And reading I find is a challenge still. So
challenge because
I get a headache from reading.
Oh, okay.
So so it's too much time staring at something without looking away. So it makes it. It's getting better. I mean, it's just a side effect of the surgery and all that. So.
All right, I want to play something here that I told Julie that I will play. And Julie does the Reawaken Your Brilliance. And there's Julie.
Hey, everyone. If you watch Reawaken Your Brilliance, you know I often talk about getting off the couch. The reason I do this show is because I want you to live the amazing life that you are meant to live. Last year in Raleigh, I started the Thrive series, which were on a variety of topics that I myself have personally struggled with and know that many other people have. After a year of doing things locally, my listeners said, "Hey, Julie, why aren't we included? Why don't you do these panel discussions online?" So lo and behold, I have started them. They are on a variety of topics, again, that I've personally struggled with, all with the motivation to get you off the couch and for you to be living the amazing life that you're meant to be. Are you struggling with procrastination? Well, that's going to be our next event, Tuesday, May 14th from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock at night. Are you stressed because you're running around at the last minute always doing things? Are you fighting with your spouse because he procrastinates and doesn't pay the bills? Are you losing money because you haven't taken the time to sign up for your company's matching retirement program? Do you need to lose weight, but you've been putting off going to the gym? We have a panel of 3 body, mind, and spirit experts who are going to help you tackle pesky procrastination. Geraldine Thomas, you might have seen her on Hoarders, is going to talk about how the common mistakes that she sees with people when it comes to procrastination. Psychologist Susan Orenstein is also going to show you your common traps and help you to learn them so you'll be able to spot them and quit procrastinating. And finally, Julia Rogers-Hamrick is going to talk from a spiritual perspective of why you procrastinate. And if you're like, hey, I've got to knit my grandma's kitty something that night, no worries, because we record everything and you'll have up to 7 days to watch. And if you sign up from the events page, there's a link to take you there, and you can save $5 with the code. So no excuses. Get off the couch and quit procrastinating.
Really, Julie does great. Her Thrive series is thriving.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. Yes, sir. And I guess Mike is going to be here in the studio.
Might be. Mike never knows from 1 minute to the next where he's going to be.
All right. I never had a chance to get into any of these stories.
Well, go for it.
German IT magazine Hayes reports that the Ministry of Education in Schwerin had a configure virus infection on 170 machines that was dealt with by simply throwing them in the trash. Can you imagine? Other German authorities have now decided that the approach taken is not up to the principle of efficiency and economy, and that the 187,000 euros invested in this radical form of virus removal were inappropriate.
I don't think I'd call it an investment. I'd call it flushing money.
The ministry had earlier estimated the cost of cleaning their desktop and servers by more conventional means to 130,000 euros. Are they serious? Isn't Kaspersky in Europe? And doesn't Kaspersky have a little tiny routine that you can just run and it cleans configure? What is going on with these companies or these organizations or governments?
It's called bureaucracy.
It is ridiculous. 130,000? What it takes? Just short of 1,000 to clean each machine? Makes no sense.
I haven't had a machine in 6 months with a virus or spy. I don't mean mine. I'm talking about anyone else's. The problem seems to have abated quite a bit. Have you noticed it?
I still see them.
A lot?
I see. No, not a lot. I mean, I see it, but once a week. I mean, a friend of mine brought his with the FBI thing. There was nothing I could do. I tried and tried and tried. That thing was entrenched, but it started weeks and weeks ago. And I don't know what he did. He said he tried to do some stuff.
Did you get Mac fixed?
The what?
Did you get Mac fixed?
There is nothing we can do about this drive. I mean, I ran Recover for let it run all night. It found a bunch of files, but none of what he was looking at.
Ugh. Back up.
Absolutely. We're going to move. I know we talked about it, but really we should move.
Who's going to move?
Up to 17,500 rural Vermont subscribers of retail, a legacy copper telephone company, stand to get gigabit fiber to the home. Funded by $95 million U.S. grant and $55 million in co-investment for a utility for smart meters. The 1,200-mile fiber network will cost $8,500 per home. If every subscriber takes the gigabit internet, currently, if everybody takes it, apparently they're not going to run it to each home just by default. Currently, the company is doing its best to convince people this is a product they need, but have been only 600 takers, seen only 600 takers so far. The federal grant is part of $7.2 billion in broadband stimulus funds that seem to have accomplished very little. This is the same thing like we see between the States and Europe when it came to phones. Remember in the early days of cell phones, Europe, and I don't know how it is today, but Europe was always ahead of us because they did not have the investment in landlines, so they went for the wireless, which is a lot easier to implement, and they advanced way past us when it came to wireless. But gigabit, that's what's nice to be in a rural area somewhere where it's not that developed. You're going to get it. 1 gigabit. Wasn't there some story about RTP and Google Fiber kind of being mentioned in the same sentence? Did you hear that?
Yeah, but I don't know that anything like that's going to happen. There are too dang many politics involved.
Talk about politics. The first sci-fi novel, the reporter writes, I read, was A Wrinkle in Time. The next was Dune. Why don't more people read these extraordinary imaginative books? Delegate Ray Canterbury, who represents Greenbrier County in southern West Virginia, wants to help with that. He introduced a House bill, which reads to stimulate interest in math and science amongst students in the public school of this state. The State Board of Education shall prescribe minimum standards by which samples of grade-appropriate science fiction literature are integrated into the curriculum of existing reading, literature, or other required courses for middle school and high school students. So now they're passing a bill that science fiction is going to be part of the curriculum. Not bad.
So Gmail just turned 9 years old. April 1st, 2004, Gmail launches as an invitation-only beta. The first webmail to be built on Ajax with 1 gigabyte of storage, threaded conversations, and more. 2005, it was 2 years old, obviously.
Oh.
February 7th, 2006, Gmail added chat. February 10th, 2006, Gmail for your domain with Google Apps, the precursor. May 2006, 40 languages. February 14th, 2007, Gmail opened up signups available worldwide. February 14th, 2007. Okay, that's when you didn't have to have an invitation to get Gmail. In October 31st, 2007, they added free IMAP. September 15th, 2008, they added the Forgotten Attachment Detector. 2008, first Android app released on T-Mobile. November 2008, Gmail added video chat one-on-one right from their inbox. March 2009, they added undo send if you sent the email and didn't mean to. And in July 7th, 2009, Gmail finally leaves beta. So they had a 5-year beta. Interesting. Priority inbox, two-step verification app for iOS. New look, new design. Gmail. On June 28, 2012, they hit 425 million active users. July 30th, 2012, they added free 10-person video chat with Google Hangouts. November 9th, they added 57th language, Cherokee. November 27th, 2012, Gmail lets you insert drive files up to 10 gigabytes. March 28th, new Compose experience. That's exciting. And then they were 9 on April 1st, 2013. We were talking about archiving email a while ago, and the way I do it, I think has worked out pretty well, and I recommend it for people who don't have their own servers and don't want to get too involved with it. But what I do is my email address, the one that I use as on a regular basis, is with a company called POBox.com, POBOX.com. What they are now is they are just an alias. So my email address at POBox.com, when you send an email to that address, it goes to wherever I forward that email address. Presently, I forward it to 3 Gmail accounts. One of those Gmail accounts I access by POP on my home computer. The second one I access by IMAP through my iPhone. The third one I rarely access. It's simply a method of storage. Since I download my Gmail by POP on my main computer, I have my store of emails on my local hard drive. Those PSTs are also backed up to other network drives periodically as well. It's going to be pretty hard for me to lose all my email.
That's the way to do it. Multiple.
And it's all free.
There is no such thing as too many backups. And, hey, Mike,
Yes.
Your letter has been publicized.
What letter?
It says, nobody would ever say that the world of patent law is a roller coaster of excitement. But every now and then something interesting happens. Take this attorney who was angry over the patent examiner's rejection of his client's application. Here are a few snippets from the lawyer's letter to the examiner. Are you drunk? No, seriously. Are you drinking scotch and whiskey with a side of crack cocaine while you examine patent applications? Heavy emphasis on the quotes there. Do you just mail merge rejection letters from your home? Is that what taxpayers are getting in exchange for your services? Have you even read the patent application? I'm curious, because you either haven't read the patent application or are, I don't want to say the R word, special. I don't know what the R word here is. Your job is not a joke, but you are turning into a regular three-ring circus. If you can't motivate yourself to take your job seriously, then you need to quit and let someone else take over what you actually want to do. Quit and let someone else take over what that actually wants to do to the job right. To somebody who wants to actually do the job right. I mean, can you imagine an attorney? I mean, a patent attorney like yourself?
You mean a former patent attorney?
Yeah, he's the one who's been drinking.
I find it really hilarious. And I'm sure sometimes you feel like that, maybe?
Well, you feel like that, but you have an ethical obligation not to say that. If he doesn't lose his license, he'll probably be disciplined.
Well, he shouldn't lose his license. Why?
I don't know. You've got an ethical obligation not to do that.
And listen to this thing. The UK government passed the Enterprise and Regulatory Reform Act, which effectively makes so-called orphaned content posted on social media sites public domain. Corporations now only need to have made a diligent search to find the owner of a content before use. From the article, it says the Act contains changes to UK copyright law which permit the commercial exploitation of images where information identifying the owner is missing, so-called orphan works, by replacing the work into what's known as extended collective licensing schemes. Since most digital images on the internet today are orphans, the metadata is missing or has been stripped by a large organization. Millions of photographs and illustrations are swept into such schemes. So all you have to do is if you're in the UK, is just whatever they call diligent search to find the owner of content before use. That's all a company has to do. And if they can't find them or ID them, they can use that information or images or whatever. Isn't that interesting?
So how thorough is the diligence search?
I don't know, Mike.
It's as thorough as it can be, but the problem is that so many things are open for interpretation.
I mean, from what they're talking, I mean, the way that they put it, it says corporation now only need to have made a diligent search. So they make it sound like they don't have to do much. Of course, that's the reporter's interpretation of the thing.
Yeah, don't ever go by what you read in the press.
And to go back to Spence, what you were talking about, BlackBerry CEO Thorsten Heinz believes that tablets will be dead by 2018. He says,
what is he proposing they be replaced with?
Listen. In 5 years, I don't think there will be a reason to have a tablet anymore, he told an interviewer at the Milken Institute conference in Los Angeles. According to Bloomberg, maybe a big screen in your workplace, but not a tablet as such. Tablets themselves are not a good business model. That may come as a surprise to Apple, Google, Amazon, and Samsung, all of which have built significant tablet businesses over the past few years. Research firm Strategy Analytics suggested in a research note earlier this month that the global tablet market hit 40.6 million units shipped in the first quarter of 2013, a significant rise from the 18.7 million shipped in the same quarter last year. So why would Heinz offer such a pessimistic prediction when everyone else, from the research firms to the tablet makers themselves, seems so full speed ahead? It's easy to forget sometimes that BlackBerry has its own tablet in the mix. The Playbook. I never heard of it. Anybody else heard of it? Playbook?
I've seen it at a trade show.
Okay. It has become a weak contender.
I would say it's not even weak.
In the actual tablet market.
Non-existent.
Well, if Heinz is predicting that the market's eventual demise, it could be a coded signal that he intends to pull BlackBerry out of the tablet game, focusing instead of smartphones. It wouldn't be the first radical move the company made in the past year.
But
all this because he wants to pull out, so he has to say that's what I'm doing it.
Yeah, set the stage with a bunch of false statements just so it can justify
but it's stupid.
What he's doing.
I mean, if it was only involving BlackBerry, it's one thing. But to say such a stupid thing, unless he's got a psychic. Carrie, did they get in touch with you to find out if that's correct? I mean, come on.
Well, I think that there's a possibility that tablets themselves can morph. You'll see a morphing between smartphones and tablets.
Oh, I'm sure.
Where you've got the phone will grow, the tablet will shrink, and you'll have that device. But you'll still have specialty devices that are designed for business. It'll be larger tablets. You'll still have smaller phones for people who just don't want to carry something that big around with them. But have you seen the commercial with the wedding, where all the people with all the smartphones? And I have to say that I get at the end of that commercial, I still don't remember who actually, what product it is that they're trying to advertise.
That's a great commercial,
but the commercial is great, where they're walking down the aisle and everybody has their smartphone ready to take pictures, and then a brawl starts. Have you seen that commercial?
No.
It's hysterical. It's literally somebody's wedding, and someone stands up with a tablet in the front row to try to take a picture of the wedding.
Right.
And the people in the back, down in front, what are you blocking us? Everybody's holding up a phone or some type of device to take pictures of the wedding. And then an all-out brawl starts, where all the people throw all the chairs aside and they're all tackling each other, and it's hysterical.
Sounds like fun.
Arguing over, who has the best camera in their smartphone and who has the best device. And they mention Apple, they mention Samsung, they mention Android, they mentioned, everybody. Oh, it's a Microsoft commercial. I take it back. I do remember now why they had, what the point was to say that, everybody should move to the Microsoft phone because it's just so much simpler and better than all these other products.
Yeah.
It's a clever commercial, just like the Microsoft tablet commercial with everybody dancing and throwing things in the air and spinning around. But you walk away from that to say, what does this product exactly do? Everybody's clever and hip and all that, but you don't really say, I could use that for work. That's not how it comes off. It's just their advertising is missing the point.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
We're talking about SIP. Spence, listen to this too. VoIP to PSTN termination providers and SIP vendors will be watching the inboxes for a lawyer's letter from BT, British Telecom, which has kicked off a licensing program levying a fee on the industry based on a list of 99 patents. The British incumbent is offering to allow third parties to use Session Initiation Protocol, SIP, under a license agreement. British Telecom is requesting either $50,000 US dollars or a combination of 0.3% of future revenue from affected products, plus 0.3% of the last 6 months sales for products such as past damages. It's kindly offering a discount for customers that pay up within 6 weeks of receiving a BT letter of demand. And there's a premium to 60,000. There is a premium to 60,000 US dollars and 0.36% of revenues for those who hold out. So British Telecom saying that they own the patents on SIP.
Well, they may. They very well may. Let them fight it out.
99 patents that have to do with SIP.
They can rip it all up and throw it away if they want to, and they'll just have to come up with some other technology that'll probably be better.
And we will be the winners again.
Well, we hope.
Yeah.
I was looking at this Gmail thing, and I'm looking at my wife's account. The first email in her account is on August 21st, 2004. That's really early.
Yeah.
She has then emails. So she's got all of her email in Gmail going back to 2004. And she is using 4.7 gigabytes of her 10.1 gigabyte allocation.
Wow.
You know what's really bizarre is I'm sitting here looking at the next to the last email in her account from August 22nd, 2004, and I remember her getting this email. That's why I get so amused when people talk about, my memory's not as good as it used to be. Good grief, look at the crap we've got in our heads right now. Unbelievable.
Oh, well. Yep. Yes,
I specifically remember her getting this email.
I remember it well.
Interesting.
It was before you were talking about SIP and the BT potential lawsuits there. It's interesting because SIP is really it's a standard.
Yeah.
And what is it they're saying about SIP that they have the patent on when they're implementing a standard?
I don't know. They have a patent. They have 99 patents on session.
SIP is also a very loose patent, unfortunately, because it creates issues for implementing, because your interpretation of how a call setup request goes could be very different from another vendor. That's why we have to have. There's a lot of SIP interoperability issues, and SIP, what they call normalization. For example, if you're a company and you use a specific vendor's SIP phone system, and you want to connect to a SIP service provider, there is something called a session border gateway that does what they call SIP normalization, because everybody potentially could implement SIP slightly different from someone else in a way that they interpret a request, or the way that they interpret the handshake that goes on between the two users or endpoints as the call gets set up. So I would really like to look at what they call their patents and see. We went through this with a lot of different technology in the last 10 years. I remember a lot of the optical stuff was challenged for a while, and it turned out it was just a bunch of patent trolls that were bought up patents from companies that failed and then tried to basically blackmail people into giving them some money in order to use.
Well, maybe that's why Mike is saying let them fight it out, and we'll see.
Very interesting.
I don't get so concerned about those things anymore.
It sure makes somebody a lot of money, though.
Lawyers.
Yep. Yeah. I was reading about just lawyers in general. How did you see the lawsuit that was brought by ex-students? I don't remember what law school it was, but they actually brought a class action suit. I believe it reached class action suit category against this university for making claims about potential jobs with their degree that never appeared for many students, and making the way they said, oh, here's your opportunity if you get the degree in this or that, or this specialization in law, that you will certainly, you'll get a job so easily, and all this other stuff. So apparently the students were upset enough after going through the process, getting their degree, and then not being able to find work, that they're suing the university. Very interesting.
Anyone who goes to law school thinking it's a short road to riches is sadly mistaken.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
There are probably more people making big bucks writing iPhone apps than there are graduating from law school and hitting successful cases.
And is that good or bad?
I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, it's what my father-in-law used to say. It's magazine article material, and that is, don't read things that hit the news and compare yourself to that particular situation, because only the most extraordinary things get reported. You see the Dershowitzes and these other attorneys who have the very successful cases, who they make a big splash in the law. They may even make big bucks, but for every one guy who's having that extraordinary success, there's an uncountable number of people failing miserably. And that's not just practice of law, it's in any profession. Just don't let the publicity and the bright lights blind you.
No.
Are you saying that Gloria Allred is not of the highest moral
no, actually, I'm not. I'm there. Obviously, I've
just
never
kidding.
met her.
Just kidding. She stands out as one of these one of a small list of high-profile lawyers that show up. They just seem to back the weirdest people in their argument.
Any cause that has a camera looking at it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and that, but you know what? So what? Big deal. I mean, that's exactly the way Hollywood works. I mean, all these actors and actresses, all they're looking for is the next gig anyway, and I don't see how hers is any different. As much as I dislike her and vehemently disagree with her, you got to admit she busts her butt for her clients, and that's what you want your lawyer to do.
Mm. It's funny. I did a search on high-profile slime bag lawyers, and what pops up but Gloria Orr's website.
Yeah, man.
I'm serious.
She knows how to take advantage of circumstances.
She's like this guy in Congress. What's his name? Schumer. You get between him and a camera, and you take your life in your own hands.
That's right. I've actually seen an interview being done with a bunch of congressmen or senators where they're trying to make a point, and he's just standing in the background, but he makes his way to the front somehow, and is like almost pushing people out of the way so he can get in front of the camera. Well, that's another reason why I could never move back to New York. I don't think I could handle the political climate
or the taxes,
or that's a given. I mean, I couldn't afford to live there.
Mm.
Did anybody read anything that Steve was saying he was dropping out, or he had to do something, had to go somewhere?
I didn't see anything.
I'm kind of worried about him because he's still not online. So, Gary, you never told us oh, yeah, you did. The parallel stuff.
The parallel, he said that the reason that the glass is slanted is so that it won't collect dust. The reason it's slanted down instead of slanted up.
That's so if you spill your can of soda, it doesn't go into the console, which pours on the floor.
Well, I know Gary. I asked Gary why he posted a link to a Kent State story to my totally unrelated post in Facebook, and he says because everyone has forgotten. Well, some people, unfortunately, a lot of the people who have forgotten weren't around back then, and they can't relate to the story.
That's right.
Unfortunate event.
Even I was a young thing when that happened.
Yep.
Now, maybe one of you could explain this to me. Now, I grew up in Israel. And Israel was actually established on a socialist principles.
Yeah.
And that's where the kibbutz came from and all that. But it's a democracy. But, of course, you had a big thing on May 1st. Over here, because this was for workers and all that, here on the news locally, I saw where they were talking about all this May 1st thing, there was some group carrying a banner. It says, student power. What in the world? What does one thing have to do with the other? What am I missing? What am I missing?
I think it's just May 1st in general, May Day, and the tenets behind it. It's workers, it's students, it's just giving control to the populace, and not because think about it, the movement, the people who formed communism. The Lenins, the other authors of they targeted students. That's where they went and got the ear of students to create. The workers were there too, but the students were much more moldable from an ideology perspective because they were young skulls full of mush, and they were ripe for picking, and they harvested them from the universities, and then put them out into the working class, and they became the ones who. So students were very much a part of this whole thing. They were not separated from it. They were part of the plan.
Has anything changed?
No, nothing's changed. That's where you you look at universities today, and it is the place where, you know, whatever the philosophy of that university is, that's the indoctrination they're going to get as they go through school, because that's.
Just so you people understand, this is after 12 o'clock. We can talk about anything.
That's right.
I
we're about done talking anyway, aren't we? I've got some things I've got to go do.
Well, I mean, it's time to end the show.
Yep.
It's interesting how in the beginning we were going farther and farther and farther into 3 o'clock, and now it's going back to where it's supposed to be.
As it should be. As it should be.
That's just wrong.
Why?
I'm just to go to 3 o'clock. I mean, it's like
Oh, well.
I don't know. I mean, Andrew's 24/7.
Yeah, that's true. Well.
Yep. All right. Anything else?
Not me.
I'm out of stories. Okay. Well, Spence?
Yes, sir.
Are you going to be up to going out to lunch this week, right?
I think so. Yeah, I was feeling good and got myself to the point where I was very, very active on Friday, going out, went to dinner with my daughter and went to the store and all that. And I felt pretty good. And then Saturday, I took a long car ride with a couple of friends, to go look at a house that this neighbor is buying. And I really didn't think it was a good idea. When I got home at night, I said, I probably shouldn't have done this, because I was very uncomfortable.
As long as you didn't hurt it. I mean,
no, I don't think I hurt anything. I think I just wasn't ready to be sitting in a car for all that time. And I just supposed to take things in small doses. So.
It's all right. It's all right. All right, so thanks, guys. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Kenny, and Donna. Thank you for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drives and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9. But you can always reach us at computers2know.com. While you're at it, like us on Facebook. Just click the button at the lower left of the page. And remember, tonight at 8 o'clock, it is Carrie's Psychic Cafe. Carrie will be talking about... She will be doing readings and talking about what it's like to be a psychic. And that's from 8 till 9 tonight. And tomorrow morning at 11, it is the Health Inn with Debbie Brock. See you, everybody.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. Our weekly lineup of call-in programs includes Computers 2K Now with Amnon Nissan, Sundays 9 a.m. till noon. Carrie's Psychic Cafe with Carrie Silkowski, Sundays 8 till 9 p.m. Health Inn with Debbie Bruck, Mondays 11 a.m. till noon. Breaking Free with Marilyn Shannon, Mondays 8 till 9 p.m. Reawaken Your Brilliance with Julie Seibert, Wednesdays 9 till 10 p.m. And if you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it at www.nissancommunications.com. Sponsored by ThatVidBlasterGuy.com, CarolinaApparel.com, and DeltaForce.net.